I don't know about you. Ian, I don't care if Lamar Jackson gets a fully guaranteed contract or not, but I'm just so tired of this. Every day you turn on TV.
It does seem like it's a lot. Yeah.
Every
Back
day.
and forth.
Tired of that. So we'll know if they use the exclusive tag, and then this will be even worse than before, or the non-exclusive tag, and then at some point they'll have to figure that out. If Daniel Jones gets the franchise tag in New York, now I think Jones should sign, and I think the Giants should budge, but if Daniel Jones gets the franchise tag in New York, that means Saquon Barkley's gone. And that would alter the dynamics of even how the Titans are thinking, because yesterday, as we brought up and we talked about a lot on this program, the Tennessee Titans are reportedly shopping Derrick Henry. Now, if the Titans weren't reportedly shopping Derrick Henry, then my guess would be that we would have heard some way, somehow, somebody friendly to the team would have put out there that the Titans aren't shopping Derrick Henry, that you would have heard from somebody who is somewhat in the satchel of the organization. You would have heard Diana Rossini. Not going to mention any names locally. I want to, though. Boy, do I want to. But what are you looking at me like that for?
Nothing. Keep going.
Anywho, we'd hear that they weren't actually into that. And that takes me to the point about trading Derrick Henry, which at the end of the day, you can be as mad as you want at your general manager for a move. You can be as mad as you want at your head coach. We don't know who's in charge between the two, so we can put the blame out 50-50 or whatever it may be. But the thing about unpopular decisions in the National Football League is that they better work. Whenever somebody makes an unpopular decision, they'll always say, just wait, you'll see. And it better work. When John Robinson made the unpopular decision of trading A.J. Brown, he said, hey, these are the tough decisions that I have to make. You'll see. And we saw, and he got fired. But if the Titans trade Derrick Henry, ownership owns this. If the Titans trade Derrick Henry, triggering a rebuild of the organization, waving the white flag on the 2023 season, if that's the case, that's on ownership. And so I don't want to hear any of this. Well, that way, Rand Carthon was the one who wanted to do it. Mike Vrabel was the one who, I don't care about that. Because as far as rebuilds are concerned, trading Derrick Henry equals a rebuild. As far as rebuilds are concerned, owners are the ones who decide if you rebuild or not. If you're one of these teams that keeps going for it every year, it is the owner who decides, okay, enough's enough, it's time to bring it back. And I'll give you an example. The Atlanta Falcons made the Super Bowl in 2016. Matt Ryan was league MVP, and they were up 28-3 in the Super Bowl. The next year, they brought a lot back. The next year, they tried to run it back again. Then, even though it wasn't really working out for the Falcons, they decided we're going to give it one last try with Thomas Dimitrov and Dan Quinn and that Super Bowl group, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Deion Jones, Grady Jarrett. We're going to try one more chance at it. And then after the season was over, Dimitrov was fired, Dan Quinn was fired, Arthur Smith was hired, but it was Arthur Blank who decided, okay, we tried. We ran it back as much as we could. We tried to recapture that 2016 season when we were the number one team in the NFC. It's not going to work. It didn't happen. I love those two guys, but it's time to move on. Owners decide. Now, a GM or a coach may push the owner one way or another, or being terrible may push the owner into okay, we have to rebuild. But for the most part, it's the owner who decides. The New York Jets could go young at quarterback again. They're not going to. Why? Because the owner wants to win right now. So if the Titans trade Derrick Henry, forget about Rand Carthon and forget about blaming him. And if the Titans trade Derrick Henry, forget about Mike Vrabel and forget about blaming him. I feel bad for Vrabel if they end up trading Derrick Henry because he's going to lose games next year. And when that happens, these fans are not going to listen to the Mike Vrabel angerthon at the end of every press conference. But this one belongs to ownership. And I'll say this about ownership of the Titans. They really tread in the background. all of the stadium stuff, and boy, today is a big day for the stadium, but all of the stadium stuff, they let Burke Nihill handle that. It was the mayor, and it was Burke Nihill. When it comes to the football stuff, they let Mike Vrabel, and I guess now Rand Carthon, they let them handle that. Used to be John Robinson. When they fired John Robinson, she didn't even talk to the media about it. Vrabel had to get up there, and he had to be the one to discuss it. But this move, as reluctant as Titans ownership is to put their stamp down on anything, this move, if you trade Derrick Henry, you own it. And if it works, good. Congratulations, you've got it figured out one way or another. But if you trade Derrick Henry and you're bad, and then you move into your new stadium and you're bad, I'm not going to feel bad for you when you can't sell those PSLs. I am not going to have any sympathy when you decided to trigger a rebuild, which is what trading Derrick Henry would mean. I will not feel bad for you. And I like the ownership of the Titans. And I have defended the ownership of the Titans. And I have gone on national radio and said that Bud Adams should be in the Hall of Fame, which he should be, and I believe that. But I did it because I believe that that's what's fair to the Titans. But if you trade Derrick Henry, an incredibly unpopular move that I wouldn't be interested in, I wouldn't do it, and I wouldn't let them do it if I owned the team. Ownership owns it. Amy Adams Strunk owns it. You don't trade Derrick Henry without talking to the owner. You know, the A.J. Brown thing, it's amazing. Amy Adams Strunk was sitting right there in the room. There's pictures, there's video. When they made the move, she knew what they were going to do. But yet, when it comes to who gets the blame for A.J. Brown, John Robinson gets 100% of the blame because Vrabel got up and looked disgusted when they made the move. So they fired John Robinson. His fault they traded A.J. Brown. Let me say this. You trade Derrick Henry and you're not very good. That's on you. That's on the owner. Rand Carthon did not take this job and walk in and say, trading Derrick Henry and I don't care what you think about it. You don't trade Derrick Henry without talking to the owner. Because, again, owners are the ones who decide if you rebuild or not. And if you trade Derrick Henry, you are rebuilding. There's no way around it. Derrick Henry is the best player in the history of your franchise. And I say franchise, I'm talking about the Tennessee Titans. He's not the best player in the history of the Titans or the Oilers. But he's going to be, in my opinion, the first Hall of Famer that was a Titan. I know Bruce Matthews and Kevin Mawai. I know they played for the Titans. Randy Moss played for the Titans. But like Bruce Matthews was an Oiler and Kevin Mawai was a Jet. Derrick Henry's going to go into the Hall of Fame, and he's going to be the first guy who played the majority of his career with the Titans. You don't talk to the owner before you make that move. You don't make that move without getting the okay from the owner. Now, you may have to convince the owner, and I don't know what the discussions have been with Amy Adams Strunk as far as Derrick Henry's concerned. I don't know if she said to Rand Carthon, I don't know about trading Derrick Henry, but if the move gets made, it has her approval with it, and she owns it. And if you're not good next year, or if they trade Derrick Henry and you don't want to buy your season tickets, you don't want to buy a PSL, and then when that new stadium comes, if you're Moses looking through the desert like the years of Jake Locker, I'm not going to have any sympathy for them. I'm not going to have any sympathy when it's we can't do that. They're already saying right now that they can't spend money in free agency. I mean, I'm sorry, but you're going to get all this money from the city. You're going to get all this money from the taxpayers and the fans. And now we're sitting here talking about how, they trade Derrick Henry. It better work. That's all I'll say. And if not, there's no passing the buck around here. There's no, that was A.J. Brown. That was John Robinson's fault. No. By the way, Mike Vrabel was part of the organization when they drafted Isaiah Wilson and Caleb Farley, too. He didn't get blamed for that at all either. And if they trade Derrick Henry and they stink, then I'm not going to blame Vrabel, even though he's going to get fired over it. And I'm not going to blame Rand Carthon, even though a lot of you all are. I'm going to blame the owner because this one lays at ownership's feet. So just think of that if you're going to make that move. 615-737-1025. The non-exclusive franchise tag for Lamar Jackson. Ian, who's reporting that?
Everybody.
So it just came out?
Yeah, about 10 minutes ago.
Amazing. ESPN has a freaking basketball show on TV. Who freaking cares about the NBA today? Lamar Jackson, non-exclusive franchise tag. What this means that Lamar Jackson, if he wants to go out there and he wants to find his contract, if he thinks somebody out there will fully guarantee him a deal, he can do it. And any contract that he ends up getting, the Ravens can turn around and offer 2 first-round picks and match it. The Ravens can match it. If not, they get 2 first-round picks in return. Totally botched that one right there. Let's see if Jason Fitz's Washington Commanders will offer Lamar Jackson a fully guaranteed take comes to fruition. Do you think there's a fully guaranteed contract out there for Lamar?
I guess it just takes one, right?
So are you saying yes or no?
I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say no, too. I don't think there is a fully guaranteed contract out there for Lamar Jackson. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to weigh in. 615-737-1025. Now, I am not sure about what a return for Derrick Henry in a potential trade would be. I don't think it's going to be very high. In fact, I'm worried it's going to be a third-round pick. And if they do that, I'm going to be screaming, Malik Willis for Derrick Henry is exactly what's going to come out of my mouth if the Titans end up trading Derrick Henry for a third-round pick. But from somebody who would know, there seem to be a lot of teams that would line up for Derrick's services. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Your home for NCSU basketball is 94.9 The Fan.
3 ball, yes sir!
All the big shots and moments live here. NCSU basketball is on a station built for you. 94.9 The Fan.
The Electronic Express tax refund sale is extended. Get up to 50% off doorbusters and 40% off in every department, including 4K TVs, computers, gaming consoles, Bluetooth speakers, smartwatches, and more. Refresh your kitchen with appliances in stock and ready to deliver. And buy now, pay later with up to 3 years free financing. Shop in-store or online at electronicexpress.com and express delivery on most items. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Actor portrayal.
Hi, I'm Diane, and my husband Jack has low testosterone.
Hi, I'm Jack. I knew something was wrong when I went from feeling energetic and youthful to tired all the time and not sleeping well, putting on belly fat, and my sex drive just dropped.
The fun, active Heartland lifestyle we always enjoyed was disappearing. Then our sex life declined, and eventually we just stopped.
I had to do something, so Diane and I went to the sexual health specialists at Tennessee Men's Clinic. We learned that nearly half of men over 50 suffer from ED and low testosterone.
It was refreshing to hear that one size doesn't fit all. They have a variety of therapies depending on age, medical condition, and lifestyle. He's back to the man I fell in love with.
My energy's back. Our intimacy is better than it's been in years. I can't thank Tennessee Men's Clinic enough.
Your first visit to the Tennessee Men's Clinic is only $99. They have multiple treatment options for low T and ED. Book your appointment today. Call 615-208-9090 or book online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra, results vary.
For the love of the climb, for the love of the fall, for the love of knowing your kids' laughter is the sweetest music there is, for the love of Tennessee. Travel safe. Brought to you by the Tennessee Department of Tourist Development, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Anyone want to tell me what happened?
Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Stillman and Company podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to theGameNashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
You know, especially like with my injury and, you know, me being up in age, those questions come. You know,
yeah, they come for everybody.
They always come because, I mean, you know, running backs, their span in the NFL is not long. And I know people probably blow this out of proportion about about what I said, but I'm just being real, with the history. Running back is 20, 29, 30 is just,
30's
usually you try to get him out of there or you think he's going downhill. And then, like you said, offense been sitting around me a long time, and sometimes people won't see something different. Maybe people are tired of seeing me. I'm just being real. I'm not saying I want to be trading anything like that, but I'm just saying, like,
you just never know.
You just never know.
Yeah.
You just never know. Anything can happen.
You don't ever know. Like, it's like,
especially with the new GM, he might be like, man, we get this Henry boy out of here, man. We gotta get him out of here.
There you go, Derrick Henry on Bussin' with the Boys, and that was about a month ago. And I still thought the idea of trading Derrick Henry was absolutely a non-starter. Then the report came out over the weekend. The Titans are shopping Derrick Henry. Now, a lot of people asked yesterday on the program, what would be a potential return for Derrick Henry if the Titans were, in fact, to trade Derrick Henry? And I personally believe it'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of a third-round pick. A third-round pick, maybe a second if you're lucky. I mean, teams do not like giving up first-round picks for older players. And Derrick is an older player. Teams also don't like giving up first-round picks for really expensive players. And Derrick is not really expensive. He's got a $10.5 million salary, which is what the Raiders are paying Josh Jacobs. And if the Giants end up tagging Saquon Barkley, it's what they'll pay him. But it's still on the higher side of running back. And so it's like, well, we'll give you a third-round pick, and there you go. Which, again, for a Robert Woods is one thing. But a Derrick Henry, that's another thing. But the one thing that always forces an organization to pay more or usually jacks the price up on anything is when the demand outweighs the supply. Now, I'm not sure there's a team in this league that would value Derrick Henry as much as the Tennessee Titans value Derrick Henry, or would use Derrick Henry as much as the Tennessee Titans use Derrick Henry. But Pat Kerwin, who's a former NFL scout and executive in the NFL and has been on NFL radio and writing for NFL.com, and he's been in the game for 40 years one way or another. He was on his show yesterday on SiriusXM NFL Radio, and they were talking about the rumors surrounding Derrick Henry, and listen to the market that he believes is out there for Derrick Henry.
Tannehill was on my list for potential cap casualties. Derrick was not, but it sounds to me like he's tradable. But I wonder if they can't get him traded, are they just going to keep him? I don't believe they'd just release him. I don't know what you think he's worth. We can get into that potential. But I wrote down next to his name, Atlanta, Miami, Buffalo, Giants if they lose Saquon, Philly. They have Sanders is out of contract, Chicago, Carolina, New Orleans. There's a bunch of teams that would probably really like to have him. So we'll see what transpires with that. Because to me, he is a tradable piece. You got a contract on the guy, and there's a lot of teams that love to run the ball better than they run it.
And I heard that, and I thought, that's a whole lot of freaking teams right there. I mean, that's who we sit there like Carolina, New Orleans, Atlanta, Chicago, Baltimore, Philadelphia, this one, that one, this one. And it hit me when I heard him list out all those teams. You want to know why there's so many teams that would want Derrick Henry? Because he's a freaking great player. That's why so many teams would want Derrick Henry. Now, again, the Titans were shopping, and maybe this was them just trying to figure out, what is Derrick worth? It's like David Poyle said last week that this idea of being a seller allowed him to be able to gauge what the prices and interest on the rest of the roster were. And maybe that's what Rand Carthon and company thought they were doing. But regardless, the reason why all those teams, according to Pat Kerwin, would want Derrick Henry is because he's a great player. And if there is anything that we have learned over the last year, it is that you don't just give away great players. There's only so many of these in the league. I saw yesterday that the Chiefs have decided they're not going to tag Orlando Brown. They're also releasing Frank Clark. Guess why? Because they're not great players. I asked Jason Anderson, who does the midday show in Kansas City, who I worked with in Louisville. I asked him, I said, why did they not tag Orlando Brown? And he said, because he's not that good. When Chris Jones' contract came up, they tagged his ass. Chris Jones, Kelsey. Now, they did trade away Tyreek, but you do not give away great players. The Green Bay Packers gave away Devontae Adams, and they went to crap. Why? Because they gave away a great player. Now, they got a return, and the Titans got a return for A.J. Brown. But you shouldn't be in the business of giving away great players unless you suck. And I don't think the Titans suck. So when I was listening to all those teams that wanted him, I wondered if the Titans were trying to move off of Derrick Henry, if there was going to be this team would be interested, but the Titans are going to have to eat some of the money, or, this team would be interested if he gets released, but they're really not interested in the idea of trading a pick for him, or like it would be Dallas trading Amari Cooper last year to Cleveland, where they traded a 6th-round pick because Dallas didn't want to pay $20 million. And Pat Kerwin's telling me, here's this giant list of teams that would want Derrick Henry. Why? Because he's a great player. You don't get better by trading away great players. You don't get better by trading away Derrick Henry while he's still good. And this reminds me of the Julio Jones trade. And remember, I was floored when the Titans traded a 2nd-round pick and took on the money in the Julio Jones deal. And I was floored for 2 reasons. The first reason was normally older, hurt guys, it's like, I'll pay the money, but I'm not giving you a good pick, i.e. what Cleveland did with Amari Cooper. Or it's, I'm not going to give you a high pick on a guy who's old that I might have for 1 year. And there was nobody around the league that wanted him. And the Titans were the only team that was willing to do that. And I'm like, there's a reason you're the only team that's willing to do that. Because at that point in time, Julio Jones was no longer a great player, and the whole league knew it. Derrick Henry is still a great player. You do not get better by giving away great players. So let's just remember that. It's like the whole Jeffrey Simmons thing. It's like if you were to sit there and say, okay, well, Jeffrey Simmons is available, everybody would call you because he's a great player. And you do not get better by giving away great players. So when I hear the Titans are shopping Derrick Henry, I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Texter says, I believe, and phone lines are turned by WilsonCountyHunter.com, I believe Henry wants to be traded. I don't know where we get that from. I mean, didn't those Bussin' with the Boys clips sound like, gosh, I hope I don't get cut. Like, I love it here. I want to keep rolling here. That's what I interpreted it as. And I'll give Taylor Lewan credit because while his podcast is not my kind of thing, I know a lot of people do like it, but man, they get Derrick Henry to talk. That's the only place in the world where Derrick Henry talks and he actually says what he's feeling. Every other time it's like, Derrick, team won by 100 points. You rushed for 9 billion yards. What did you think? Yeah, it was a really good offensive line, did a good job. Just give the ball to me, and I found the hole and, ran through the line, and, we played really well today. Thank you, Derrick. Texter says, I'm completely opposed to trading away Derrick Henry, but if they do, it has to be to an NFC team that will not play within the next 2 seasons. Well, you have no idea if that's going to happen or not. Titans fan, because you get to the Super Bowl. Titans fans would be broken if Derrick plays against the Titans and runs them over. Well, we saw what happened last year. We saw what happened.
It was not fun.
No, we saw what happened. When AJ spanked the goalpost, we saw what happened. I love you, but I have to give you this whooping. I mean, unbelievable. And you know what kills me about the AJ thing? Like, you hear all this talk about the Titans aren't going to be able to spend any money in free agency. And I'm like, so wait a minute. Last year, the Titans were so in on spending money that they spent money on Harold Landry. They traded for Robert Woods. They swore up and down this time last year they were trying to sign A.J. Brown. Like they said, we promise we're trying to sign A.J. Brown. And now it's like everything must go. Why? Because John Robinson didn't get a left guard and because the left tackle got hurt? I don't get it. That to me, I do not understand. LD in McMinnville says, which Henry report do you believe? The one saying the Titans are shopping Henry or the one saying the Titans are not? Do we have a report that says the Titans are not shopping Derrick Henry?
Not that I've officially seen.
I mean, is it somebody real that says they're not shopping? Is it a water carrier like Diana Rossini?
I have not seen that.
Because if it comes from Diana Rossini, it comes right from Vrabel's mouth.
The most recent Diana Rossini I saw was regarding Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
the Falcons will not be pursuing Lamar Jackson. That's the most recent. So.
Oh, my God. I'm going to curse today. This is such a wild show. 615-737-1025. We'll get back to your phones on this. Plus, there's another little nugget that I completely overlooked just in my anger at the idea that the Titans would trade away Derrick Henry while he's still good. And to me, it's a ridiculous nugget. Caroline says Jordan Jones says the Titans are not shopping Derrick. Who the hell is Jordan Jones?
We know the Jonathan Jones, the insider from CBS, but I don't know Jordan Jones.
I think it is Jonathan Jones.
Okay.
But do we trust him?
Not
exactly Jay Glazer. I mean,
no,
he's their version of Jay Glazer, but he's not Jay Glazer.
Yeah, maybe.
I believe they're shopping him. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Stillman and Company. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. They're my guys. In fact, I actually have to call Hiller out at the house to take care of something with electric issues. And they're not issues, but I just need, an installation of a Cat 5 cable. And the first person I decided to call was Hiller. Why? Because they always get the job done. Sometimes replacing equipment in your home can be overlooked until something breaks. But there's actually big problems that can come from outdated old vintage HVAC systems. Older systems have higher repair costs, require more maintenance, and result in higher utility bills. And even worse, they can break down when you need them the most. This month during Hiller's Vintage Showdown, they're giving away a free HVAC system to the owner of the oldest unit. It's easy to enter. Just go online to happyhiller.com and submit a picture of your old unit. Plus, everybody wins with trade-in credits and 0% interest financing for up to 48 months on replacements. Again, Hiller takes great care of my work, and they will do the same for you. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, proud supporters of the Vols, and proud supporters of Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today.
Thursday night.
Here is Jankowski. Mark Jankowski.
The Predators continue their road trip against the Arizona Coyotes. Pre-game at 7. Puck drop at 8 on your home for Smashville. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. It's that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
All of us at Cromwell Media, who owns this radio station, are recognizing 2 special teammates this month. Andrea Kamer is celebrating her 16th year as our corporate business manager. It's no secret, Andrea is the glue that holds everything together around here. And we're saluting Caroline Fenton, one of our stellar co-hosts of the Midday Show on 102.5, 106.3 The Game, as she wraps up her 2nd year with us. Andrea and Caroline, you are what makes this a special place to work. Want to join our team? Send us a note at together@cromwellmedia.com.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game is live and local.
And now, let's meet the starting lineups.
Robbie and Rex Road 6 to 9.
You are talking about a team that's building a roster.
Jason Michelle 9 to 11.
He's still under contract.
It's not always X's and O's.
Caroline, Willie, and D Mace 11 to 2.
Trades, free agents.
Let's get it going. I think this is a good hire.
And Stillman and Company 2 to 6.
I can give you one of the best coaches in the league.
And don't forget, we're your home for all things Nashville.
He scored!
Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Hey Nashville, this is Rick Stockstill, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 The Game.
This is gonna get blown out of proportion.
Go ahead.
But it is what it is.
Because I would.
But you talk about you might have 3 more weeks. I mean, they might might want to get me out of here. You mean you just never know. I mean, anything can happen. I mean, I'm 29. I'm up in age. You know what happened with this year, and they might want to go young. You just never know. They might.
I would be. I would be.
I'm not saying I want to leave. I love Tennessee, and I hope to be here the rest of my career. I want to bring Super Bowl here, but it's a reality thing. It's just the business side of it. You know, I mean, you just never know. At my age, being 29 in the league and a running back, that's old.
There you go. That was Derrick Henry on Bussin' with the Boys. I mean, he knows the score. Now, that being said, Jonathan Jones at CBS, as a texter, said in the text line, all the way down in the little bottom nuggets of his note column from the Combine, talks about the Titans and the Derrick Henry and his more insider nuggets, I guess, more insider notes talking about, it's 4 notes down. Here you go. Quote, I know there's talk the Titans are shopping running back Derrick Henry, but my sources tell me they are not. I had been told general manager Ran Carthon would be methodical in his approach to free agency and changes to the team. What's that mean? Methodical? He's going to take his time in free agency, a.k.a. what we reported on this show Friday, that they're not going to spend any money.
Not go crazy. Yeah.
That he would be methodical in his approach to free agency and changes to the team. The releases of tackle Taylor Lewan and receiver Robert Woods weren't surprising, no duh, and cutting loose edge rusher Bud Dupree also made sense. I don't believe the Titans see any tangible free agent upgrade at quarterback over Tannehill, and taking away the most essential part of the offense in Henry would indicate Tennessee is tanking more than anything. The Titans can very much contend in the AFC South, and they'll have to do that with Henry. So just a lot of takes on his part, other than the fact that his sources say they're not shopping and that Ran Carthon is going to be methodical in free agency, a.k.a. what we've been telling you for the last 2 days, which is that the Titans are not going to be spending money in free agency. By the way, guess what one agent told me who talked to the Titans? One agent at the Combine told me. I said, so did you talk to the Titans? And the agent, who I don't think represents any players on the team, the agent said to me, LOL. Gonna be a bad year for Titans fans. I said, oh boy.
Oh boy, yeah.
Oh boy. So make of that what you will. Tyron in Brentwood's up next. Has been waiting patiently. Tyron, go ahead.
Yeah, a couple of things, and I'll get to the Titans in just a second. But I think now, in hindsight's always 20/20. I think the ding, ding, ding winners of the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes will be the Washington Commanders. And then now it makes sense. This is why Bieniemy left Mahomes to come to Washington. There's no way in hell he would leave Mahomes to come coach Hal. So I think Washington told him, we know the Ravens are going to put the tag on Lamar to where if we give up 2 picks, we'll give him the guaranteed contract. This is your quarterback.
Tyron, I don't care about this right now. Get to Derrick Henry.
All right, well, the Titans are headed for a rebuild. That's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, the bottom line is, and this is their thinking in my mind, is this. They feel like they can't win a Super Bowl. They want to splash when they do go to the new stadium in a couple of years. So I think they're blowing this thing up, and they're going to enter the Caleb Williams sweepstakes next year. They're going to suck Palooka this year, and they're going to enter them sweepstakes to try to get a high-rated quarterback coming out and then make a splash when they go into the new stadium. That's the way of selling the PSLs and the season tickets, but they're going for a full rebuild, man. I know you don't like it. I'm not saying I fully agree, but I'm not a Titan fan, so I don't care. But yeah, this is rebuild written all over. And I think behind the scenes, I think Carthon really runs the show. I really think when it's all said and done, I do. I believe that wholeheartedly.
No, thank you for your call, Tyron. Ian, who do you think runs the show?
I'm leaning more and more towards Vrabel these days.
I can't. Now, if you want to tell me that Vrabel and Carthon are 50-50, that I'm willing to believe. But I don't think there is any chance that Mike Vrabel is not at least 50%, if not 55%. I don't think there's any chance Ran Carthon's running the show. Now, here's the thing about the rebuild and the stadium and the seats and everything else. If you trade Derrick Henry, and the NFL is a year-to-year league. Now, Solomon Wilcots came on our show at the Super Bowl, and he said everybody talks about trying to plan out years in advance, and you can't do it in a league. It's a year-to-year league. And I agree with that. I mean, again, John Robinson had the number 1 seeded team and had made the playoffs in the last 3 years. And all of a sudden makes one trade and he's out of a job. It is a year-to-year league. And so the reason I bring this up about the new stadium is because it's easy to say, and in these other sports you can probably do it, I mean, you can't be for sure, but in baseball, we see a lot of teams that kind of rebuild and they get it going, and hockey teams rebuild. But in football, I don't think you can do this. I don't think you can pick to rebuild and then say, okay, well, we're going to be good when the new stadium is ready. Because if you're doing that, you better know who the quarterback's going to be. And there is no way that the Titans have any idea who their starting quarterback is going to be in 2026. And Tyron talked about entering the sweepstakes for Caleb Williams. Well, you have to be really freaking bad in order to get Caleb Williams. I mean, you got to be Ken Wisenhunt bad to be able to get Caleb Williams. And as long as Vrabel's the coach, there's no way that's ever going to happen. The Miami Dolphins tried to do this 3 years ago. They sold everything. They got rid of everybody. Tanked for Tua. And they still only ended up picking 5th. And so I know that everybody's going to say, well, they're doing this for the new stadium. And I could see them saying, okay, we have to save money for the new stadium, which I don't totally agree with and I don't totally like. But I could see them saying that, not we're going to start tanking right now to go full rebuild. So by the time that we move into our new stadium, our team will be really, really good and everybody will want to buy PSLs. Because let me tell you what the worst thing in the world that could happen is. And we're going to be talking today with people from the mayor's office, and people on the Metro Council are coming on the show today because today's a big day for the stadium. And the way it is believed to me is that if the stadium project ends up costing more money than originally budgeted, the Titans are going to be the ones who pay for that. And the Titans are putting up a lot of money for this. And part of the money the Titans are putting up are PSL sales. Well, I hate to break it to you, but if you trade Derrick Henry, and if you trade Derrick Henry, you might as well trade Tannehill. So if you trade Derrick Henry and Tannehill, and you win 5 games because Vrabel's the coach and he'll find a way to pull 5 out of his tush, and you win those 5 games, and all of a sudden you're bad this year, you're bad next year, but you're not bad enough to get your quarterback. Then the year that you're really bad, you get a quarterback, and there's nobody good in the draft, just like when you ended up with Mariota, or just like when you ended up with Jake Locker, and there's not a Joe Burrow there, and there's not a guy that's going to change the franchise. And now Vrabel's gone because you've lost too much. And so you bring in some new coach, and he might stink like a lot of the other coaches this organization has hired. And so now you're terrible, and now you're entering your new stadium, and you've been terrible for the 3 years before that. You going to make your PSL sales? You going to be able to get people to drop $50,000 or whatever it may be on PSLs? I don't think so. So the idea of the rebuild, I don't think that that's worth it. I'm going to address this text one time, and I feel like this is going to come up a lot whenever we talk about Derrick Henry. Texter says, just spitballing here, but the possible trade of Henry and the 11th pick to Chicago for number 1 and the Bears' first rounder next year. What? Like, you better trade the stadium as part of the deal. You put in all the money that you're going to put into this stadium. You give that to the Bears so they can put it into their new stadium, and then they might trade you the number 1 pick. I do not believe that Derrick Henry would get you anything more than a 3rd-round pick. I still believe that. A 3rd-round pick is probably best-case scenario for Derrick Henry. The idea of moving from 11 to 1 because of Derrick Henry, the Chicago Bears aren't a Derrick Henry away. And remember that most people don't even really value running back that much. I think there are 2 teams in the league that value their running back like the Titans do. There's there's Dallas, and that's because they've got 2 of them, but I think they're going to cut Zeke, and Tony Pollard's their guy, and they need him. And it's the Giants. And the reason these teams value their running back is because all of them have okay-ish quarterbacks. But you can't put the game in Dak's hands. You cannot say, Dak Prescott, carry us. He can't do it. And the Giants have about 20 minutes to sign a new deal with Daniel Jones, and they're going to give him $40 million a year, and they expect Daniel Jones to be a game manager. And it's going to be Saquon Barkley, win us the game. And so they're going to tag their running back. But those are the only teams that really say, okay, our running back is the most important guy, or running the ball is that important to us. The Eagles aren't going to tag Miles Sanders. They're going to let him go into free agency. So, no, you are not. Derrick Henry is not going to be a part of a package that moves you up to the number 1 pick so you can take C.J. Stroud. You're probably going to have to deal, in order to get to number 1, your first-round pick this year, your first-round pick next year, your first-round pick the year after that, and probably something else. That's what it's probably going to take. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We've got the decisions around the league that I think have to be made. The Ravens have already made the biggest decision as far as Lamar Jackson getting the non-exclusive franchise tag. Plus, one report says they're shopping him. Another report says they're not shopping him. I think Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel probably have learned a lesson about Derrick Henry. We'll get to that coming up next. And it's not really about Henry, but it's about this job, being in the captain's chair. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Magnon all the way to the rim.
The Commodores look to continue their winning ways in the SEC tournament. What can SEC Co-Coach of the Year Jerry Stackhouse and his team accomplish? Catch all the action on your home for the Commodores. 93.3 Classic Hits. And right here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
There's never a good time for your furnace to go out, especially in the winter, but it's always a good time to call Lee Company. Our heating and air conditioning pros are available 24/7. No heat? Don't wait. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000. Our expert technicians will diagnose the issue and fix it right the first time. When you're cold, you need someone you can count on to bring the heat. Call Lee Company now at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
When you want to rock.
Let's go, don't wait. This night's almost over. Do all the monsters come out at night? Why do we slip when we want to?
We are Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz.
This week's Nashville's Best Deal is Seafood Sensation. Often imitated but never duplicated, Seafood Sensation is Nashville's original seafood restaurant. Right now you can get half off a $25 gift card to their new location in Antioch at thegamenashville.com/deals and enjoy some of your favorite seafood dishes like their crab legs platter, grilled salmon, and more. That's Seafood Sensation, new location in Antioch at 2209 Murfreesboro Pike. Get half off a $25 gift card while they last at thegamenashville.com/deals.
One is smart.
This has just been a constant trend for this team.
One is funny.
That's right.
Funny looking, maybe. Chase and Michelle with Chase McCabe and Michelle Knezovic.
Are you listening?
I'm listening.
Everybody's listening.
Weekdays from 9 to 11. Presented by Hair Club. Hair Club. Love your hair. Live your life. On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
You know, one thing I'll tell you guys, and you know, the agents that I have spoken to, we won't negotiate publicly. That's not what we're going to do. We're a family, and we're going to keep family business in house. And when that time comes for us to make a public announcement, one way or the other, we'll do that.
There you go. That was Rand Carthon. And, again, the reports out there, the Titans were shopping Derrick Henry. And now the reports out there from CBS that the Titans were not shopping Derrick Henry. Now, Mike Silver's report, and Mike Silver's been around for a long time. Mike Silver's report was his sources, current general managers in the league. Jonathan Jones was just my sources. And, again, Jonathan Jones, I'm not sure how long he's been around. Now, I'm not telling you which report to believe. Ian, which report do you believe? Do you believe that they were shopping him, or do you believe that they weren't shopping him?
I believe more towards the shopping part. Yeah, I do.
Okay, so I'm going to say that too, that I believe that they are shopping him. And I think there's a very valuable lesson to be learned here by both Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel. Because, again, we don't know who's in charge of the Tennessee Titans. And I have told you that I don't think one or the other has been given the title of chief football executive. I don't think that Amy Adams Strunk says, okay, we're going to tell everybody we're a united front, but if push comes to shove, Mike, you're in charge. I don't think that's happened. I think Amy has told them, I want you two to get it right. And so you guys need to figure it out. If you have a disagreement, that's fine, but you guys need to figure it out. And so the Titans don't just have one person that's in charge of the organization, they have two. So that means that when these other teams are at the combine and these other agents are at the combine and they're meeting with people, teams think that they're talking to somebody who's got authority with the Titans. That if you're talking to Rand Carthon, you think you've got authority with the Titans. If you're talking to Mike Vrabel, you think you've got authority with the Titans. And guess what both guys have never had before in their entire careers? Authority. So it wouldn't surprise me if Rand Carthon or Mike Vrabel said, what would you take for Derrick Henry? Just to see what the value would be. But what they don't understand is the second you do that, somebody picks up the phone and goes, Tennessee just told me about Derrick Henry. In fact, I remember years ago, the Houston Texans didn't have a quarterback. They had screwed up on Brock Osweiler, and Tony Romo was leaving the Cowboys, and it was a foregone conclusion that Tony Romo, like Aaron Rodgers to the Jets now, it was a foregone conclusion that Tony Romo was going to the Texans. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Tony Romo announced he was retiring, and he was going into the booth to be the number one guy at CBS. And Floyd and I were discussing what's going to happen now if you're the Texans. And Drew Brees was considered somewhat out there, and Phillip Rivers was considered somewhere out there. And I said that, we were doing a negotiation. It kind of was spur of the moment. But I said, okay, if you're the Texans and you call the Chargers and you want Phillip Rivers and you're offering this, and Floyd's like, if you call me and I'm the Chargers, I want 3 first-round picks. And I'm not giving you 3 first-round picks for old man Phillip Rivers. And he's like, I want 3 first-round picks. I said, well, if you do that, then I said, okay, I'm going to hang up and I'm going to call the Saints about Drew Brees. He says, you do that. I pick up the phone. I call ESPN and I say, I hear Houston's talking to San Diego or New Orleans about Drew Brees. And I was like, damn. And so my guess is the Titans, and this is just a total guess from the gut, the Titans are going to run it back with Henry and Tannehill. And maybe I'm projecting my own opinion onto what I think they're going to do, but I also think it's common sense. The Titans are going to bring it back with Henry and Tannehill, and they're going to hope that Okonkwo and Burks and those guys play better next year. And they're going to expect Vrabel to put the defense together, which I expect he'll do a decent job of, and that the Titans will be okay, and let's see from there. That's what I think is going to happen. And I think that's the approach the Titans are going to take. But I think that either Rand Carthon or Mike Vrabel just decided, okay, let's just see what Derrick Henry's worth. And when they did, they learned a lesson that the second you start talking to these other general managers about your players, it's a lot easier for that general manager to use that piece of information in order to get something else out of the reporter. We think that the way the combine works is the coaches go there, the agents go there, and the executives go there, and everybody mingles and talks, and the agents are trying to get their free agent players worked out with these general managers, and the general managers are trying to get a jump on everybody else, and they're trying to meet with these players, and the coaches are trying to evaluate these players, and the reporters are there just doing their jobs. And I got to tell you, as much as Adam Schefter needs these guys for information, and he does, as much as he needs a general manager or a coach as much as he needs them, they need him. They want to know what he knows. There's a lot of things that people know that they don't tell you about because they don't have the authority to tell you or they haven't gotten it confirmed. I mean, Ian, back me up on this. I knew John Robinson was fired before it came out.
Yeah.
And I didn't have it sourced. I couldn't break the news the Titans were firing the general manager when I knew it before it happened because I wasn't 100% sure and I would have looked like an idiot. But if me and you were talking, I told Ian, Caroline, and Chase. I texted into the group text. I'm like, we got a situation today. And you guys were like, what? I was like, John Robinson just got fired. I think. And so the Adam Schefters, they know certain things that they can't necessarily report. And these teams want to know what these guys know. Floyd's guy was John Clayton, the late John Clayton, the late great John Clayton. And he said, John has the best information. And he used to always say that. And what that told me was he was going to John to try to figure out what these guys knew. Floyd told me a story one time. He got a call at the Combine, and it was Chris Berman. And Boomer called him and said, hey, you guys are still thinking about trading up to this spot or whatever. And at that point, Floyd realized that Boomer called the wrong guy. And he was like, maybe. He's like, what are you hearing? And Boomer was like, well, I heard that you guys wanted such and such. Floyd's like, I didn't know that. He goes, wait a minute. Is this Mike Shanahan? Nope, this is Floyd Reese. So you got the whole moral of the story here with the Derrick Henry thing is I believe that the Titans did shop Derrick Henry. I don't believe the Titans are actually thinking about trading Derrick Henry, but I am guessing that they wanted to see what the value of Derrick Henry was, and they were unprepared for what came of it, which was somebody else used them for information to get out of something else. And that's the lesson. I go back to what I said earlier about how David Poyle talked about how, this gave him an opportunity to get the value of his players. And the reason that's important is because if David Poyle picks up the phone and calls a general manager and says, I'm thinking about trading Matt Duchene, then immediately that general manager goes to one of these insiders and says, Nashville wants to trade Matt Duchene. And then it's out there. But if David's already made it obvious that they're selling and the reports are already out there that they're listening on everybody, then it's not a huge report that Nashville is looking to see what the value of Colton Sissons is. Doesn't matter. And that gave him the opportunity. Again, if he picks up the phone and says, hey, we want to trade Tanner Jeannot, now it becomes, they're looking to deal this guy. And I think Rand Carthon, who's never been in a position of authority, and Mike Vrabel, who's never been in a position of authority, just learned the hard way with a fire they're going to have to put out. Which is, it's one thing for Derrick to say, hey, I could be on the chopping block, or hey, they could think about my age and everything else. But it's another thing when it is reported and everybody is talking about Derrick Henry is on the block. So just a lesson for them to learn here. Texter says, with conflicting reports, it sounds like what shopping Derrick Henry means to you. Not sure what that means. Texter says, if the Titans are so cash-strapped, why would Rand Carthon take the job? Could the shopping rumor be that teams were reaching out to the Titans instead of the Titans reaching out to others? Don't think so. Shopping generally means, hey, what would you take in exchange for Derrick Henry? If you came up to me and you offered me $2 million for my car, I would sell it to you, but I'm not shopping my car. So when you hear shopping, and the other guys that were in the Mike Silver report, Jalen Ramsey and DeAndre Hopkins, no duh. Of course those guys are getting shopped. I mean, that's all that those teams are doing, shopping those guys. I would be surprised, personally. I would be surprised if the Titans were actually actively looking to trade Derrick Henry. And I'm not going to lie to you. Not that it matters to me what, I don't think that I get up here and I tell the Titans what to do and then they go turn around and do it. I don't think so. I mean, I would love to have that kind of power. I don't think I do. I do think that the angst that has come out about this rumor may make the Titans think twice about this, which is all I want to do. Just whatever it is, do not do this. By the way, I nailed this. I don't know if I said this yesterday on this show, or if I said it last night on Sirius, but I said Daniel Jones was going to sign right at the deadline. We are 5 minutes away from the deadline. Ian, who says Daniel Jones has a 4-year deal?
Looks like a few people are out there. I saw Jordan Schultz, Mike Garafolo.
Do we have the number? How much money?
1 second.
Because I said all along in the QB carousel, Daniel Jones, $45 million.
I'm just seeing a 4-year extension. Have not seen any prices attached to it yet.
My guess is I'm going to say Daniel Jones, 4 years, and I think it's going to average about $41 million per. And I think the first 2 years are going to be guaranteed, and I think the third year is going to be partially guaranteed. But we'll see on that front. But I said yesterday on Sirius, I was like, Daniel Jones needs to take a deal, and the Giants need to get Daniel Jones to take a deal. So you have that now, a roundup, because the deadline will have passed in 4 minutes, a roundup of the latest news around the league on franchise tag deadline day. We'll get to that next. And, of course, your phones. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company. Join 1025 The Game live from the Rusty Nail on Friday, March 17th for the opening round of the NCAA tournament. Enjoy $3 2-lane beer drafts while watching some hoops during a St. Patrick's Day celebration. The Rusty Nail is located in Hermitage and provides a great local atmosphere with a large outdoor patio and volleyball courts. Plus, great drinks and great food, especially the wings. I hope they plan on giving us some wings when we're out there. I'm just saying. That's 1025 The Game live at the Rusty Nail at 4054 Andrew Jackson Way in Hermitage on Friday, March 17th. Doors open at 10 a.m.
Stuck at work without a radio?
Wait a minute. Disastrous.
I hate that.
It's got to be there.
That's okay. Download the Game Nashville app or go to thegamenashville.com and listen live. We are Nashville's best sports talk, 1025 and 1063. The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
When that door closed behind me and I was free, the main thing I wanted to do was just re-enter society, get a job, and see my family.
It's okay.
There's a new state office of re-entry in Tennessee, specifically to help folks like me get jobs. Go to tnworkready.com or visit your local American Job Center. Re-entry is a normal thing, and it's okay.
Brought to you by the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
tnworkready.com.
If you missed the latest from Stillman and Company.
Mark my words. If you trade Derrick Henry, you will stink next year, period. And if that happens, you can't blame John Robinson for that. And I'm not going to let you blame John Robinson for that, because you shouldn't be allowed to blame John Robinson for that. And Vrabel's shtick, as good of a coach as he is, and he's a great coach, he's got his weaknesses, but as good of a coach as he is, that shtick is not going to fly if you stink. People are not going to put up with that. People are going to turn on Vrabel so quickly. I feel bad for them if they collectively decide to trade Derrick Henry, because I know how most coaches are. And I know most coaches are sitting there saying, don't trade Derrick Henry, because they have to play against Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is a Hall of Famer.
Stillman and Company, weekdays from 2 to 6 on 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Now, your Game Center update.
This Game Center update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. The NFL offseason news continues once again today. First off, the Baltimore Ravens have placed the non-exclusive franchise tag on quarterback Lamar Jackson. The non-exclusive tag gives Jackson the ability to negotiate a longer-term contract with any team, and the Ravens would have a chance to match it or let Jackson walk and get compensated with 2 first-round picks. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport on what this could mean for Jackson's market.
This is essentially putting it out there to other teams. If you want him for the right price, then certainly you can have him. And I would say the fact that someone else could sign Lamar Jackson to an offer sheet.
The Nashville Predators failed to gain any ground in the playoff race last night. After a Winnipeg loss in overtime earlier in the evening, the Preds lost in a shootout 4-3 to Vancouver. Rookie Luke Evangelista tallied his first 2 NHL goals to force overtime. The team remains 6 points out of the final wildcard spot. The Preds are back in action Thursday in Arizona. This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. I'm Ian Safar for 1025 and 1063 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
A gunny performance. Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead. The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. So the franchise tag deadline has passed, which means now we have some clarity. And now we know who is going to be available in free agency for the Titans to not go after. So let's just get right to it. The news of the day, where it is, Lamar Jackson, as Ian said in the update right there. The non-exclusive franchise tag for Lamar Jackson. What does that mean? It means instead of $45 million, Lamar Jackson's base salary next year is going to be $32.5. But Lamar Jackson, who has been adamant about wanting that guaranteed contract, that Deshaun Watson fully guaranteed deal, now will be able to seek it. So with the non-exclusive franchise tag, Lamar can go to any of the 31 other teams and can try to get a contract done. With one caveat, the team that does the deal with Lamar not only has to pay Lamar, but they also have to give the Ravens 2 first-round picks. And the Ravens have the right to match the contract. So if Lamar hates the Ravens so much and he goes to the Dolphins and the Dolphins give him a contract and it's not fully guaranteed because it wouldn't be fully guaranteed, then Lamar Jackson can say, okay, I want to sign with the Dolphins. I've signed this contract. And then the Ravens can say, okay, we'll sign that contract. And I think what this is going to do, the Ravens are so tired of trying to go back and forth with Lamar Jackson as to what they're going to do that they've just decided, fine, you go find the best deal for you. And if we like it, we'll match it. And if it's too rich for our blood, we'll just take the 2 free first-round picks and move on. I think they're tired of dealing with Lamar's crap. And so now I think this move is a put-up-or-shut-up move. Mark Dominic, former NFL general manager, was on my SiriusXM show, and we were talking about this before it became an idea that the Ravens would use the non-exclusive tag on Lamar Jackson. And this is what he said he would have done if he was the general manager there.
If I was the Baltimore Ravens, I would consider telling Lamar Jackson, I will franchise you, but I won't exclusively franchise you. So if you want to go out and get an offer that you think is fully guaranteed in 5 years, and somebody's going to have to give me 2 ones, and I still have the right to match it, let's do that. But how about this, Lamar? If no one does, you agree to play under the franchise tag at next year's number. No holdout, no sit out, and I'll give you that option. Or I could just exclusive franchise you, and you have no choice, and it is what it is. And I think I wouldn't be afraid to do that, knowing that I still have control over whether I want to match that contract or not.
I cannot wait. I am so tired of this Lamar Jackson. Every day you turn on the television, what's the latest with Lamar's contract? And everybody who's so uninformed on television, these former players that have no idea how this works, sitting there talking about how you don't think this team would give Lamar a fully guaranteed deal? No, I do not think, former player, that they would do that. But guess what? Let's see. By the way, the Falcons, yesterday, Damian Woody and Dan Orlovsky were telling Jeremy Fowler that he was stupid, basically, when he said that they were not going to be able to get a fully guaranteed deal. Well, the Falcons will do it. Guess what? Diana Rossini reports the Falcons are not interested in Lamar Jackson. Oh, my God. Oh, amazing. Okay, Daniel Jones, 4 years, $40 million per season with the New York Giants, and apparently they say there's $35 million in upside as well. So Daniel Jones can earn over these 4 years an additional $35 million. Am I reading that right?
I think so, and it looks like per Tom Pelissero here just a second ago, $82 million over the first 2 years.
So basically a 2-year guaranteed deal for Daniel Jones.
Probably so, huh?
Basically, it feels like what they did was they took the 2 tags and they matched them together. And so, makes sense. And I said this last night. And I said, Daniel Jones has got to get a deal done with the Giants. And here's why. Because Daniel Jones had one good year. And the one good year he had was with a really good coach, Brian Daboll, and with Saquon Barkley. And if they didn't get a deal done, and I could see Daniel Jones, if it were just him in a vacuum, I could see Daniel Jones saying, fine, I'll play on the $32 million franchise tag, and then next year you'll have to franchise tag me again, a la Kirk Cousins, and then I'll hit the real open market, and I'll get paid. And Daniel Jones would get paid on the open market. But that would be without Saquon Barkley for the 1 year. If the Giants used the tag on Jones, Barkley was gone. And I think to be successful, just like Ryan Tannehill needs Derrick Henry, I think Daniel Jones needs Saquon Barkley. Now, the Giants, I think their whole plan was to be bad this year and then get a really high pick and take one of these quarterbacks and let Brian Daboll work his magic on that quarterback. And just like they did in Buffalo, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll would have their Josh Allen, whichever guy it would have been. Young, Stroud, Richardson, Levis, whichever guy. The problem is Brian Daboll was too good of a coach. And he coached up Daniel Jones too well, and he coached up Saquon Barkley, and Saquon Barkley stayed healthy. The Giants have no avenue to getting a quarterback. They don't want to be out there in quarterback purgatory. And if Daniel Jones is going to be successful, he's got to have Saquon Barkley with him. So the only way that Daniel Jones would be able to continue and continue to do as well as he did last year was if he had Saquon Barkley, so he had to sign a deal. And the only way the Giants could be good with Daniel Jones is if they tagged Saquon Barkley, so they had to get a deal done with Daniel Jones. So good for the Giants. I think cooler heads prevailed. I think even though Jones probably left a little on the table, and maybe the Giants could have held out for a little bit more if they had used the tag on him, it's better for them in the long run that they got this deal done. Good for the Giants. Aaron Rodgers is meeting with the Jets. This is this weird love triangle that's going on right now between the Packers, Rodgers, and the Jets. And here's the thing. Rodgers wants to play, but he doesn't want to be embarrassed. And if he were to go to Green Bay and they were to fold their arms and say, Jordan Love's our starting quarterback, that would embarrass Aaron Rodgers. So he's not interested in that. The Packers don't want to make Aaron so mad that he retires and then they have to pay the fully guaranteed option. And they do not want the Jets to think they're desperate to trade Aaron, even though they are, because they don't want to pay the money, and they want Jordan Love to play quarterback. The Jets, who are desperate for Aaron Rodgers, do not want the Green Bay Packers to think that they're that desperate, because if they're going to pay the money, they're not going to give them a first-round pick. And so right now, everybody's waiting for somebody else to pick up the phone. It's this weird Cold War. Aaron wants to go to the Jets. The Jets want Aaron, and the Packers want to get rid of Aaron. But whoever picks up the phone first probably has to pay the most. If Aaron picks up the phone and tells the Packers, I want to go to the Jets, the Packers and the Jets are going to tell Aaron, well, we need you to take less money because we can't afford to pay a $59 million quarterback. So I don't know who's going to blink first in this. I do think this. I do not think the Packers are getting a first-round pick in return for Aaron Rodgers. And I don't know how the money is going to work out. I don't think the Jets are just going to pay $59 million straight up. So do the Packers have to take some of that money on to facilitate the deal? Does Aaron have to take a haircut? Does Aaron want to take a haircut, or does Aaron look at it like, that's my money, and I can come back to Green Bay? If you want me to be the backup, screw you. You have to pay me the money. And imagine what that would do. The Packers have decided, Matt LaFleur's decided, we're going to bench Aaron Rodgers, we're going to play Jordan Love. Jordan Love starts out 0-2. Now what do? You can't have Aaron Rodgers on that team. Imagine how Packer fans are going to feel when Green Bay walks away with a third-round pick or a fourth-round pick in exchange for Aaron Rodgers. But that looks like where we're headed here with all of that. Then Saquon Barkley in New York is getting the tag. Orlando Brown not getting the tag in Kansas City. I asked my friend there why they didn't tag him. Left tackle. Says he's not that good. Says he's good, but he's not that good. So that's another thing to keep an eye on. And I cannot get over this. If Washington doesn't pony up Lamar the fully guaranteed contract, I don't think any team wants Lamar Jackson that badly to where they give up 2 first-round picks and they pay him all the money. I don't think any team in the league would be that interested. And Lamar looking like a crybaby the last year has not done himself any favors in this department. Oh, now I have to give a guy a massive contract, and he may not even be that good, and he doesn't win in the playoffs, and he's played 12 games each of the last 2 years, and all he's done behind the scenes is bitch, and I'm going to have to give up 2 first-round picks. Let me ask you, how appealing is that? Who cares if he won the MVP 4 years ago? So what? This one excites me. And I am rooting against Lamar. I really am. I am truly.
That's surprising.
But because I think the whole thing's so stupid. I think Lamar not having an agent is stupid. I think Lamar Jackson demanding the fully guaranteed Deshaun Watson thing is stupid.
Is it? I guess it's hard to blame him considering Watson got the fully guaranteed and he's been an MVP. I guess no other quarterback got the fully guaranteed. It's just wild, man. Can you believe these owners just must be thinking about Cleveland giving Deshaun Watson that deal? It must just be crawling. Oh, it's got to be killing these owners knowing they gave him that deal.
I think there's probably a lot of truth to that. I think it made them very, very mad at the time, and now that they've seen Kyler Murray is signed, Daniel Jones is signed, Geno Smith has signed, Russell Wilson has signed when we didn't think that he stunk. All those things happened. Aaron Rodgers signed since that's happened. And so I think the league's like, okay, this is a one-off and this is not going to continue down that path. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Today is the first of 3 readings with the Metro government as far as the stadium deal is concerned. Supposedly, this is about to head for a vote. Now, Ben Eagles, who is the senior advisor to the mayor, I guess is his title, special advisor to the mayor, he has negotiated the stadium deal on the city's behalf. He is going to join us in studio in about 15 minutes. But it is about to get spicy as far as this stadium deal is concerned. And I've got one theory that we'll get into, and we'll do that next here on the program. Nashville's best deal this week is from Seafood Sensation. Often imitated but never duplicated, it's a Nashville original seafood restaurant. While supplies last, grab a half off a $25 gift card to the Seafood Sensation located at 2209 Murfreesboro Pike in Antioch. Enjoy some of your favorite seafood dishes like their crab legs platter, grilled salmon, and more at theGameNashville.com/deals, and this gift card is only good for their Antioch location.
We are your home for every big pass.
Kevin Harvick takes over the race lead.
Big wreck.
Trouble turn 2. One car is around and hard into the outside wall.
And big win.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has won the Daytona 500.
Yeah! Woo!
Catch every lap of NASCAR on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Your chance to get that rare, hard-to-find luxury pre-owned Rolex timepiece is here at Genesis Diamonds. This Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, Genesis is hosting an epic pre-owned luxury Rolex event featuring a stunning new selection of these hard-to-find watches. Hulks, Submariners, Daytonas, Pepsis, Batmans, all the hottest models that people wait years for. These are carefully chosen timepieces in pristine condition. It's time to treat yourself for something great. And listen to this. With the purchase of any luxury pre-owned Rolex at this event, Genesis will give you a beautiful pair of 2-carat lab-grown diamond stud earrings of the highest quality free. That's a $6,000 value. Also for this event, our pre-owned Rolex buyers are on site offering top dollar for your Rolex. Come see the largest selection of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches in the state and take advantage of our special financing and get a 2-carat lab-grown pair of diamond stud earrings of the highest quality valued at $6,000 absolutely free. This Thursday, Friday, and Saturday only, and only at Genesis Diamonds, your home for luxury pre-owned Rolexes. Green Hills and Cool Spring. While supplies last, see store for details.
Hey, it's Jared for Hiller. Sometimes replacing equipment in your home can be overlooked until something breaks, but there's actually big problems that can come from outdated, old vintage HVAC systems. Older systems require more maintenance and results in higher utility bills. This month during Hiller's Vintage Showdown, they're giving away a free HVAC system to the owner of the oldest unit. It's easy to enter. Just go online to happyhiller.com and submit a picture of your old unit. Everybody wins with a trade-in credit and 0% interest financing for up to 48 months on replacement. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Get in on the conversation at 615-737-1025. The game text line is driven by Wilson County Hyundai. Online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com.
This week's Nashville's Best Deal is Seafood Sensation. Often imitated but never duplicated, Seafood Sensation is Nashville's original seafood restaurant. Right now, you can get half off a $25 gift card to their new location in Antioch at thegamenashville.com/deals and enjoy some of your favorite seafood dishes like their crab legs platter, grilled salmon, and more. That's Seafood Sensation, new location in Antioch at 2209 Murfreesboro Pike. Get half off a $25 gift card while they last at thegamenashville.com/deals.
We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 1025thegame and on Instagram at 1025thegame Nashville.
Hey!
Oh yeah, and like us on Facebook too. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Would you be skeptical, though, if you were on the council and you didn't have a term sheet right now?
Well, if I was on the council, I would look into all the details, and then I would be for it. Because it frees us up of a $1 billion liability that exists right now. So this is a home run deal for the city financially, but you have to understand the whole deal in order to understand it. Now, for me personally, the fact that we're getting land back, in these other deals, we put land out.
Which you didn't like about the soccer
I
deal.
did not.
Yeah.
I did not like that any public land going to support a sports deal, I didn't like. So I tell people about this deal. If you are critical of sports deals, if you are critical of where the city has been in sports deals, this is the deal for you, because it redresses all the things that were kind of a concern in these other sports deals, and it fixes them. It frees the general taxpayer back to being just working for the city and not working for a team. Now, a generation ago, this made a lot of sense, and cities would have traded places with us in order to get the Titans here in the first place.
There you go. That was Mayor Cooper on our show all the way back in October when the stadium deal got announced. And it was essentially announced and presented like it was a done deal. Now, that is apparently not the case. Now, I am not an expert in public finance. I'm really not an expert in any kind of finance, but I'm definitely not an expert in public municipal revenue bond sharing. That stuff's above my pay grade. But the one thing that I've said about the stadium project, even though I absolutely love football, the one thing that I have said about the stadium project is I'm going to keep an absolutely open mind about everything. And I told everybody this on the front end. I told Mayor Cooper that. I told Burke Nihill from the Titans that. I told those guys, when Burke was on the show, I said, all I care about is that this is the right deal for this city at the right time and everything else. I'm not going to be like I was for the soccer stadium, which I regret, where I was, we need to get soccer. Yeah, do whatever it takes, get soccer. And now they have a stadium. You can't watch the games on TV and there's nowhere to park. So, I really believe that, this has to be the right deal. Now, everybody's told me this is a great deal. Now, Ben Eagles, who negotiated it on behalf of the city, a.k.a. you, he's going to join us in studio in 10 minutes and kind of lay this out. Now, Bob Mendez, who's on the council, is going to join us later today on the show. And Bob is opposed to the stadium project. I read his op-ed. It basically said he is a no on it, and it is not a good enough deal for Nashville. In fact, he says it's a bad deal for Nashville, this stadium. And so every time I hear somebody explain it to me that would be pro-stadium, whether that is the mayor's office or whether that is the Titans, it's about how this is taking the liability away from the taxpayer and this is putting the liability towards the Titans. And in Bob's op-ed, he says that's really not true. Basically, what it does is it just gives the Titans a larger discrepancy as to what they're going to do with taxpayer money. And the idea is all the money that's generated on the East Bank will go to the stadium, and that's going to be what they do. And so it'll be all the money that's used at the stadium will be what pays for the stadium. And I heard that, and I thought, oh, Makes sense to me. I mean, for me, makes sense. I got it. Works. Then everybody else says, well, yeah, but that tax money, that tax money that's used at the stadium, that is like using your tax dollars to pay for the stadium. It's just kind of a roundabout way. So what it has done is it has made me feel like I really don't know what's a good deal and what's not a good deal. And again, that's not my area of expertise. Now, I can tell you all you need to know about the franchise tag. I know the difference between the exclusive franchise tag and the non-exclusive franchise tag. I know what happens when somebody converts their salary into a signing bonus and they spread it out over the course of a 5-year deal with 2 void years. Like that, I know. I do not know public finance and what's a good deal and what's a bad deal. And the one thing I think I've realized about this stadium is when I see the people that are pro-stadium explain to me why this is a good deal for our city, I hear it and I sit back and I think, oh, sounds good to me. You know, if the Titans were to say, hey, we have decided that we want a full renovation of Nissan Stadium, and when we get this full renovation of Nissan Stadium, the city and every single taxpayer is on the hook for it. And in order to renovate Nissan Stadium, it would cost us $1.2 billion. And that means, Jared, that would mean $3,000 coming out of your taxes every single year. Or we can build this brand new dome, state-of-the-art, get you a Super Bowl stadium, and that won't happen. And I hear that and I think, sounds good to me. And then I hear other people talk about it and say, well, yeah, but what the Titans used to say, oh, well, we need a $1.2 billion renovation, we don't believe. We want to put our own renovation people in there, and they seem to think that we can get this renovated for $600 million. And so what do we need to give them $1.2 billion for? And I'm like, well, I guess that kind of makes sense. So it's a long-winded way of saying that I don't know really what's a good deal and what's a bad deal. And I'm naturally skeptical. I think if you listen to this show enough, you probably know that I'm naturally skeptical of really kind of any bull crap that somebody's saying that has a dog in the fight. I mean, the people whose opinions I care about the most are the people who don't have skin in the game. Like the people that can actually be objective. And I mean that about almost anything. I mean, it's like when you get a former player on TV talking about somebody they played with. I don't care about RG3's opinion of Lamar Jackson because RG3 was the backup to Lamar Jackson and they're friends. I don't care about his opinion. But when you're talking about, Steve Young said this and Steve Young doesn't have anything to do, fine, I care what he has to say. He's objective. He's going to tell you the truth. That's what I want to know. And so for this, I think kind of the big rupture is whether or not we actually have to pay $1.2 billion to renovate Nissan Stadium, or if we can take it back to the Titans and say, no. We'll renovate it for this much. And then that sounds like it might be a better deal. But it also sounds like if you were to do that, the Titans might get very testy, and who knows what that means. So again, the one thing that I feel like this deal's probably done. I feel like even though they're going to read at the council and there's going to be some arguing and you're going to see things on the news or social media about this guy said this about this, my gut tells me the way politics works, it's probably already done. Like they probably have the votes to be able to pass the stadium and we're going to get the new stadium, but I don't know that for sure. And ultimately, how the public probably feels about the deal plays a really big role in whether or not it's going to go through. So, with that being said, the one thing I will continue to say about this process, and I feel like I know way more about it now than I did a year ago when I said I'm going to really buckle in and try to, figure out what's what here. And I'm going to ask real questions, and I'm not going to sit back and I'm not going to say, oh, well, I want football, so let's just get this stadium or anything like that. I want the Super Bowl. I want the Final Four. I want all of that. I'm not going to do that. But the one thing that I guess I've decided I'm going to do today, and we have the ability to do with Ben Eagles coming in studio and with Bob Mendez, who opposes it, coming on the show later today, is we'll get to hear both sides of the argument, and then I guess we'll get to make our own decisions. And ultimately, that sounds fair, right? I mean, people who vote for president don't really know what it takes to be president, but they hear both people. And when they hear those people, then they decide, okay, I'm voting for this guy or I'm voting for that guy. Now, we don't have a vote, but your council member who represents you does. And so that's the one thing I'll say. I've heard the mayor. I've heard the Titans. I read what Bob Mendez wrote. We're going to have Bob on the show later today. We'll have the mayor's office in studio in about 5 minutes. And when that happens, I think there is a really good chance that once we hear the arguments, we'll probably have decided for ourselves what we value and which side we want to go. And we don't have to be experts in it because we're not going to be. You're not going. You run a dry cleaner. You are not going to be an expert on the stadium. I run a radio show. I am not going to be an expert on the logistics of the new stadium. You're a lawyer. You're a doctor. You're a baker. You are not going to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, it's our money. It's our stadium. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. If you want to weigh in on this, we will get around to it. But Ben Eagles from the mayor's office special. What is this? I should probably have looked this up ahead of time. Is it special assistant to the mayor?
Something like that. Yeah, I looked it up earlier. I apologize. I didn't
Senior
have
advisor to the mayor. So Ben Eagles, who essentially negotiated this deal, not just on behalf of the mayor's office, but essentially on behalf of you and me, he will join us in studio next. This deal, the readings, where it goes from here, why it's a good deal, that's next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Hey, this is Phil Forsberg. And this is Smash It.
Forsberg a shot, broken up in front, give it back to Forsberg, and here come the half.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 1025 The Game.
If you missed the latest from Chase and Michelle.
Well, Mike Garafolo says that the Saints are closing in on a deal to acquire quarterback Derek Carr.
There you go. Pregnant pause. That was good.
I know. I was like, nah.
Good job.
Nah.
Good job, reporter.
So
I've noticed that name's starting to pick up elsewhere too.
Heck yeah.
So,
I said you embrace it. I heard you talk into Chase's ear and say something about signed, and I immediately start typing in Jeffrey Simmons onto my thing. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then, of course, it's not that. But are we surprised? I mean, I think the Saints were. I look at that division, too. If he goes to the Saints, then, okay, you have a very, very good shot of winning it because everybody else's quarterback has a big old question mark in front of it. Panthers, Falcons, and Bucks. So pretty good landing spot. And I guess that means the Jets are still in on Aaron Rodgers.
Chase and Michelle, weekdays from 9 to 11 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Willie Donick here for Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. The official 2022 stats are in, and the Pella brand is rated #1 by Nashville homeowners for windows and doors. One reason, Nashville homeowners selected Pella Windows #1 for the highest quality craftsmanship. Another key stat, Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville is also rated #1 for the brand that stands behind their product. If you need new doors or windows, the choice is clear. Choose the experts at Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Go to PellaofNashville.com.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe, and in the past, hair loss was inevitable. But now, you have a choice for thicker, fuller hair. Trust the experts with 45 years of experience at Hair Club. They've helped more than 500,000 clients love their hair again. No matter your age, stage of hair loss, or budget, Hair Club can customize a solution for you. And for a limited time, you can get 10% off when you book a free consultation today at hairclub.com/chase. That's hairclub.com/chase.
Join 102.5 The Game live from the Rusty Nail in Hermitage on Friday, March 17th.
And the three is good.
Take in the first round of games during a St. Patrick's Day celebration and enjoy $3 two-lane beer drafts all month long during the tournament.
Yes! What a shot!
Plus a great local atmosphere with a big back patio and volleyball courts. There's also great drinks and great food, especially the wings. That's Friday, March 17th at the Rusty Nail in Hermitage. Doors open at 10.
If you missed the latest from Stillman and Company.
You do not trade Derrick Henry. Let's stop it right now. You do not trade him. You want to cut Robert Woods? You want to cut Bud Dupree? You want to cut Taylor Lewan? You want to cut Big Boy Randy Bullock? You want to do all of those things? Fine. You want to re-sign Nate Davis? You don't want to re-sign Nate Davis? I don't care. But if you want to be good next year, you do not trade Derrick Henry. And if you want to do this the right way, you don't try to get out of Derrick Henry a year too soon. You ride it out. It was hard watching the Steelers that last year with Ben. But they did it because you ride it out when he's your franchise icon. And Derrick Henry is your franchise icon.
Stillman and Company, weekdays from 2 to 6 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
What's up, Nashville? This is Stephen A. Smith. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. So it is about, from what I've been told, it is about to get spicy as far as the Titan Stadium deal is concerned. Ben Eagles joins a senior advisor to Mayor Cooper. Now, I was told you're the one that essentially negotiated the deal on behalf of the city. So you negotiated the deal on behalf of me for the Titans' new stadium. Is that fair?
Thanks for having me on, Jared. I think one thing to get clear: Mayor Cooper negotiated this team. This deal. He did put together a great team. Deputy Mayor Sam Wilcox played a key role. Kelly Flannery, the finance director, Tom Cross in our legal department, taking the lead from that standpoint. But yes, Mayor Cooper's guiding principles here was to negotiate a future for the Titans in Nashville while looking out for the taxpayer.
Okay, let's start with this. One, there are 3 readings. I do think, and one of Bob Mendez's criticisms of kind of the way this process had played out was that it kind of felt like, you know, when you guys announced that the deal, that you had come to an agreement, I think for the average person, they felt like, okay, stadium deal's done, on we go. That is not the case, though. There are 3 readings that have to be done, and will there be debates on this? Will there be votes on this? Where are we in this process?
All of the above. And so I think it is a natural conclusion if you're listening at home and following this deal to think that when things start to get announced, start to get talked about, that it's a done deal. But that's not the case. There have been 33 public meetings that have happened, many of which with the East Bank Committee that Councilman Mendez chairs, that have happened over a period of many months. And so what the council has already voted on months ago was an approval of the term sheet, basically an approval for the mayor and the team to keep negotiating. But the final approval, to your point, is happening hopefully in the coming weeks.
Do you guys feel like, before we even jump into this, do you guys feel like you have the votes right now?
What I can tell you is that the council on that vote on the term sheet gave a strong thumbs up with 2/3 support for the term sheet. It said, keep negotiating. You're on the right path. We agree on these terms with the few key amendments that the council set forward. So I think there's reason for optimism, but it's not done until it's done.
So Bob Mendez wrote I don't know if op-ed's the right word, memo, whatever you want to call it, basically his opposition to the stadium deal. And one of the lines in it said, the mayor's office and the team have pushed hard since May of 2022 to convince us that the cost of upgrading Nissan Stadium is too high and that we should just ignore new neighborhood costs. Don't buy that hype. Instead, compare the combined stadium and neighborhood costs for a new stadium versus a renovation. Now, I hear that, and I think that does kind of make sense. I mean, everybody that I've talked to since this thing started to come to fruition was, hey, right now, if the Titans were to decide that they're just going to renovate Nissan Stadium, you who lives in Green Hills, you are going to get stacked with a tax bill, and you're going to have to pay your part. And you who lives in Bellevue, you're going to have to pay your part. And you who lives in Antioch, you're going to have to pay your part. And yet, at the same time, this doesn't necessarily factor in the neighborhood cost as well. So what's your response to that line of, you know, don't buy the hype as to what's being pushed?
Love that you did the homework there with his blog post. I would remind folks that Mayor Cooper didn't set out trying to build a new stadium. He set out trying to finally address a problem that had been kicked down the road, and he said, I'm going to be the one to step up and fix this and find a solution for the stadium and for the team. And initially that meant pursuing a renovation. When finally, the assessments were done by the team, and we had a real plan to work on and then go get the math done of how much that would cost. It came back and it was cost prohibitive. There were no financing mechanisms in place to pay for a renovation without, to your point, going to the general fund, going to the residents of Nashville and asking them to pay for it. That's a unique aspect of this new deal, is that we're leveraging contributions from the state and from the hotel tax. As for the infrastructure on the East Bank, we've seen with the River North developments, with the plans for Oracle and also for that truck stop site on the East Bank, development and growth and changes are coming to the East Bank. That is a welcome change. It's a part of Nashville that has not seen its full potential tapped for decades, and finally we're seeing some progress there. To do that right and not in a haphazard way means you want to put in the right infrastructure. And so the East Bank plan, the process that occurred through a planning process called Imagine East Bank, is really the largest planning process that has occurred in Nashville in many years. What that included is affordable housing, a park alongside the river that would lead up to a stadium that's essentially the size of, on the scale of a Centennial Park, includes a transit hub and a north-south transit spine there. So all of the infrastructure that is not going to be part of the stadium project, we believe that the infrastructure on the East Bank will largely be paid for by developers that will be developing the land, including the 60 acres that the city is getting back in this deal.
One of the points that has been brought up and everything you say, like I hear something and I'm like, okay, that makes some sense. And Ben Eagles is with us, senior advisor to the mayor. One thing that keeps getting brought up is Nissan Stadium is in such bad shape that it would cost us 1 point whatever billion it would take to renovate it. So if it's going to cost us that much and we're tied to that, let's just build a new stadium, which when I heard that, I thought, makes sense to me. And I do think Nissan Stadium is kind of a crap hole. I mean, it's our crap hole, but it's kind of a crap hole. With that, Bob Mendez writes, it doesn't cost $1.8 billion for Metro to honor the existing lease. And in it, he talks about the fact that according to, I guess, in January of 2022, the mayor's office leaked to the Tennessean that it was up $600 million in upgrades at the 23-year-old stadium over 3 seasons. According to that, Metro would pay $300 million to honor obligations under the current lease. According to Titans CEO Burke Nihill, the team would pay another $300 million to make the facility world-class. He writes, this bears repeating, just 1 year ago, both the team and the mayor thought the price to comply with the current lease was $300 million. And 1 year ago, both the team and the mayor were willing to distinguish between the amount Metro has to pay under the lease and the amount to build the Titans' preferred world-class renovation. By May of 22, we were told that we were on the hook for $1.8 billion in maintenance and renovations. In 4 months, the supposed Metro obligation under the lease grew sixfold, and the parties stopped acknowledging a distinction between the amount Metro has to pay under the lease and the team's preferred world-class renovation. Is that fair?
I would say that the $600 million figure is very dated at this point and never came from real engineering, looking at the facility, looking at what would be needed to upgrade it, to update it, and to maintain it over a long period of time. And so when we finally got experts to go in there and look, including Venue Solutions Group, who was commissioned by the council and the mayor's office to do an independent review of what the Titans renovation plan would cost, they came back and said it cost $1.88. And so you break down what that would cost. It's $1.88 billion. What that would cost, that would include some $350 million of just the infrastructure enabling projects to begin the work. And so one of the things I think that's important to remember with Nissan Stadium, you referred to it as a crap hole.
It's a crap hole.
Your word, not mine. I've always had a great time there. Although I will say it's evident when you go to other stadiums around the country, we're not keeping pace with our current stadium. And so that's where that first-class definition comes from. That term comes from the original lease signed in the 90s that refers to comparable stadiums around the country. You look at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, they've had to do $1.3 billion of work to keep that stadium in good condition. We have $350 million dollars of work that's needed just to enable the project to move forward. It was built on the cheap. It was part of a very team-friendly deal. Stadium was built on the cheap to get the Titans to come to town. But what that has meant is that a building made out of concrete is aging. It's exposed to the elements. There's a lot of work done that's needed to get it in the first-class condition. I know that Councilman Mendez would love to go point by point within the Titans plan and point out certain amenities, certain features of a renovated stadium that he does not like.
I think I have most of that right here.
Okay,
as part of his blog post that he put out there.
It's lengthy. So he would love to go through and sort of design the stadium according to his own terms. I would just remind folks again, independent experts have looked at this, engineers have looked at this, architects have looked at this, have a lot of respect for everyone on council, but he lacks the expertise from an engineering standpoint to design a stadium for Nashville.
Okay, but to that point, Ben Eagles is with us, senior advisor to the mayor. To that point, when VSG went through there, they did not, they said that they were not qualified to determine Metro's minimum obligation under the current lease, and that what they had was a preferred renovation. What would be the minimum amount that it would be to, turn Nissan Stadium into the minimum as required by the agreement with the Titans?
Great question. What's important to remember is when they talk about the minimum obligation under the lease, they're referring back to that first-class standard. And what the consultant was careful to point out is Venue Solutions Group is not a judge. If you want someone to define in absolute terms what first-class stadium requires on behalf of the city, probably need to go to court to find that out. You might ask me about that sort of path. I know the councilman has recommended that his solution is to keep negotiating, to sort of push the envelope, to welcome that sort of outcome. I think you look back at the history of cities that have gone to court with pro sports teams, doesn't typically end well for the city and for that relationship.
So I have more I want to get into. Ben Eagles is with us. You stick around with us
Sure.
on this one? Again, all I'm trying to figure out is what's the best for all of us. We'll continue along. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106 through the game.
185! Every team needs a quarterback.
185!
That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown!
Tim.
You can run good plays at the right time.
ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
You evaluate players, and then you're turning them over to the coaching staff.
Every Tuesday at noon.
At the right time.
With Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Tim on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Your chance to get that rare, hard-to-find luxury pre-owned Rolex timepiece is here at Genesis Diamonds. This Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, Genesis is hosting an epic pre-owned luxury Rolex event featuring a stunning new selection of these hard-to-find watches. Hulks, Submariners, Daytonas, Pepsis, Batmans, all the hottest models that people wait years for. These are carefully chosen timepieces in pristine condition. It's time to treat yourself for something great. And listen to this. With the purchase of any luxury pre-owned Rolex at this event, Genesis will give you a beautiful pair of 2-carat lab-grown diamond stud earrings of the highest quality free. That's a $6,000 value. Also for this event, our pre-owned Rolex buyers are on site offering top dollar for your Rolex. Come see the largest selection of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches in the state and take advantage of our special financing and get a 2-carat lab-grown pair of diamond stud earrings of the highest quality valued at $6,000 absolutely free. This Thursday, Friday, and Saturday only, and only at Genesis Diamonds, your home for luxury pre-owned Rolexes. Green Hills and Cool Springs. While supplies last, see store for details.
Do you have a VA loan? In this housing market, homeowners with VA loans have access to a ton of instant cash. Hey, Willie Donick here. Do you need cash to pay off credit cards and other high-interest loans? How does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound right now? Loan Pronto is helping veterans every day get the money they need with a quick and easy zero-cost cash-out refi with zero closing costs. With a VA loan, it's really cool because you can access up to 100% of your home's value. That's 100%. Use that money to pay off credit cards, home equity equity lines, car loans. Consolidate all your payments into one check per month and close in 2 weeks. Most homeowners who do this end up cutting their overall monthly payments by $800. And Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They're doing loans with super low APRs, and they love working with veterans. Call now. See what your options are. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
When looking to buy or sell a new home, economy comes into play, right? Hey, it's Withrow. Hunter, Richard, and the crew at Regal Realty Group are in the know about the housing market. Rates have started going back down and are more feasible, and Nashville is on the upswing again. The Regal Realty Group team can help you from contract to closing and everything in between. Their in-house title company, Monarch, will even come to wherever you are to close. These days, it's all about convenience, and Regal Realty Group makes it so convenient. Give them a call at 866-OUTKICK and let them get to work for you.
A show that lives and breathes sports.
Focus in, focus in, focus in.
From the SEC.
Credit to the Alabamas, the Georgias, and the Ohio States of the world.
To the Preds.
They've been in a lot of really tight games, but they're not winning enough of them.
To the Titans.
He's talking about what this franchise has built over the years.
Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace.
What is this? Check it out.
Weekdays from 11 to 2 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Ben Eagles is with us. He is the senior advisor to Mayor John Cooper. So take me through, again, this is the first of 3 discussions with the Metro Council. And the first one will be tonight. What are we looking at tonight and here in the future? Where do we get from now to let's put shovels in the ground?
So tonight you'll see a deferral, and then you'll
What's
have.
that mean?
Because there is a bond authorization on the docket, that's going to be one meeting deferral. Because it's something called an ordinance, that means the council has to vote on it 3 times, just to be triple sure. But on schedule here, we hope to have this concluded by the time that the city goes into budget season, which is the end of April. Because we can't simultaneously be working on a budget with the council and having the council consider an authorization for bonds on a stadium at the same time.
Okay, so I want to get into this whole taxpayer thing, because when it first came up to me about general obligation bonds versus revenue bonds, the whole premise was these revenue bonds will allow the city to relieve the person who lives out in Bellevue who doesn't care about football and isn't interested in seeing the Rolling Stones, that person is not going to have to pay for the stadium. Whereas if it's a general obligation bond, which is essentially what we have right now with the current stadium, then that person in Bellevue is responsible for it. But there has been a lot of talk, and I have read this from economists and other people that are saying, well, all that is just shoveling money from one place to another, but it is still the taxpayer money. It is not a stadium that is free to the taxpayer, which a lot of people have been kind of ponying that to be, including a little bit Mayor Cooper. What are your thoughts on that?
There's no free lunch, and there's no denying that this deal includes a lot of public funding. The distinction that I would draw is between public funding and the bill that's going to be paid for by the resident you're mentioning in Bellevue or Antioch or Donaldson. So this deal includes $500 million from the state. Now, Councilman Mendez, when he comes on, he's going to make the point that he's made before, which is not wrong. Nashville is a part of the state. And so there's some portion of that funding from the state that's derived from us who live here, right? It's a fair point. But my response would be the state is not in a position remotely close to where they are willing to send $500 million to the city for our schools, for our roads, for our police department. Were they prepared to do that? Mayor Cooper would jump at that deal in a heartbeat, and I guarantee you he would prioritize that contribution from the state for those sources rather than for a stadium. There's no doubt. The hotel tax, 1% increase in the hotel tax in Davidson County that will go to this deal. That was authorized by the state. It was supported by the hospitality industry, without which that would not be possible. That 1% hotel tax, again, is not available for these other sources. We wish it were available, and if it were, I think the city would have moved a long time ago to raise the hotel tax for something like schools. So that gets you two key pieces of the funding. Another piece of the public funding is the sales tax within the stadium. Well, this is pretty common in stadium deals, including the soccer deal, that if you go to the game and you buy a burger, the sales tax on that stays within the stadium. There's a ticket tax. So if you go to the game, buy a ticket, you and your family, you're going to pay a ticket tax, or in this case, a ticket fee that stays within the stadium. And then in the surrounding zone around the stadium that's drawn a lot of attention, 50% of the sales tax within that zone, an area that right now is vastly underutilized and is majority parking lots, which I think we can all agree is kind of not the best use of the most exciting, valuable land in the Southeast, and certainly within Nashville. There is a better use for that for that land. 50% of the sales tax from that zone is going to go towards the project. The remaining 50% is going to flow towards the general fund of the city, and I'm talking there about 50% of the local portion. 50% of the state portion will go to the state.
So how worried should we be, though, about the state getting involved, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the state just saying, okay, we're going to snatch up certain revenues now that are attached with these tax increases in order to benefit the state? Because I know that with the convention center, that's been a little bit of an issue.
Well, I one more point about the last question and the revenue there. If you're living in Bellevue and you choose to not go to a Titans game or not go to the East Bank, you're not going to be paying. And so that's a very crucial distinction there. But on the state point, we're optimistic on the convention center front because those are bonds with particular requirements related to the bonds. And once you pledge certain revenues to the bonds, it's hard then to shift and try to claw back some of the revenue for a different different purpose. So the state have been really valuable partners on this deal. There's no reason to believe that they will abandon the project. They see the value it provides to the city and to the state, and we have no reason to believe, aside from just sort of fear mongering, that the state would change their position there and try to harm this project.
So I remember a couple years ago, and I was actually disappointed with myself, but Mayor Cooper came in studio when he was Metro Council member at large, and he was opposed to the soccer stadium. And I want to say when this got kicked up, I went back and I listened to that interview because I was thinking to myself, like, I was so gung-ho for soccer, and I felt like Mayor Cooper was this guy that was just out to, keep soccer from coming here and everything else. And I went back and I listened to that interview, and I listened to some of the concerns that he had. And not only has some of the things that he said at the time come to fruition in his role kind of as antagonist at that time to the soccer stadium, but they were things that I easily dismissed. And when it comes to this, I feel like there's a lot of things that are coming in that Mayor Cooper was against when it came to the soccer stadium, that with this, he's like, just trust us on. And the one thing I keep getting back to is the renovation cost for Nissan Stadium. Like, are we sure that a renovation of Nissan Stadium, in order to get it to that minimum standard of first class, are we sure that it would come in at the $1.8 billion number that you guys have told us that it would?
As sure as I can be, based on independent professional consultants that are in the stadium business for a living. So if it's you or me sort of guessing on this from a particular platform of optimism or pessimism versus the findings of an expert who works in the stadium business around the country and around the world, I'm probably going to go with the expert. On the soccer point, I'm glad you brought that up. I think, if anything, the fact that Mayor Cooper has been skeptical and taken a very discerning eye to other major projects, including that stadium deal, and has now been the engineer and the architect of this deal, should offer a bit of confidence to your listeners that he's approached this with the right guiding principles in mind. I will say on the soccer stadium, again, we were going to lose 10 acres of land to private development in that deal. In this case, we're getting 60 acres of land back to the Metro. I'll also say on the issue of the soccer stadium, we were not starting from square one. We weren't starting from scratch on Titans. On soccer,
Sure.
we were. On the Titans, we're starting from the context of a very team-friendly deal that binds the city to this lease obligation that was signed back in the 90s. So they're just different contexts. I agree with you that some of his points, of course, have been proven correct. Some concerns about parking. I think he was critical of the lack of a site selection search in that process.
It is a mess to park at that soccer stadium.
What I'll say with this, now I'll add, it's impossible to go to Geodis Park and not conclude that project has been a huge success for the city, and I think that goes for every major project the city has leaned into. Every time City of Nashville has bet on itself. When you look back to the initial Titans Stadium, when you look at Bridgestone, when you look at Music City Center, when you look at Geodis Park, when you look at First Horizon Park, every one of those projects has paid off. And so if you're looking at this deal, looking at this proposal, and you're betting that this time is going to be different, and this project and this deal is going to be the time where it all goes wrong for Nashville, I think you have to take a step back and ask yourself if you kind of have the vision and the optimism that was necessary to make Nashville the great place it is today.
So, Council Member Mendez writes, quote, there is no reason for state and local taxpayers to provide the largest public subsidy in the history of United States professional sports. That is not a place where Nashville should be a leader. Again, knowing Mayor Cooper and his background, wouldn't you say you kind of agree with that? I mean, I don't want to be the ones that spend the most money in the world on a stadium, the most money in the country on a stadium of public funding. What is your response to that?
Look, that line doesn't sound good, and that's why he put it in his blog post. But what I'd remind folks to think about is his standpoint, where he's trying to make a case here, and I have a lot of respect for that. But when you look back at the original deal for the current stadium, do you know how much the team put into that deal?
I'm going to guess it's zero.
Zero. So when you think about this in percentage terms, because things as we get older, as time goes by, they get more expensive. We're living in an inflationary environment where things are more expensive than they ever have been. That's one reason why these estimates have gone up as more studies and work have been done, right? So in percentage terms, he is incorrect, and of course he knows that. That's why I didn't think about it in percentage terms. In dollar terms of public funds, yes, it's a factual statement. But again, as we went through, the contribution from the state is not available to Davidson County for any other purpose. We wish, of course, it was. It's not. And so, yes, I guess the mayor could turn down the contribution from the state. I guess the mayor could turn down the contribution from the hotel industry and say, as a city, we're going to do it alone, and we're going to play hardball with the Titans. And his solution is to keep negotiating. And he's very open with accepting the risk that the team could walk away and that this could end poorly. I think that perspective is not shared by the majority of his colleagues, and certainly is not shared by the majority of your listeners and the residents in the county, who are appreciative that Mayor Cooper stepped up, said, I'm not going to kick the can down the road, and I'm going to solve a problem that right now is squarely on the backs of taxpayers, and I'm going to try to get us out of that.
Last one for you. Ben Eagles is with us. He is the senior advisor to Mayor Cooper on this deal. What do you expect tonight at this first reading of the agreement with the Metro Council?
Well, again, it's going to be deferred. I think we're going to have a lot to look forward to in the next few weeks with the council debate. Again, there have been 33 public meetings on the topic. We've got a few more. I would ask your listeners to stay patient, but also to stay engaged and to contact their council folks with their feedback for the deal, against the deal. We want to hear it. We want to hear it all. But at the end of the day, this is a deal that gets the taxpayer off the hook for this very team-friendly deal that was signed in the 90s. Brings in state investment, brings in private sector investment. The team is coming up with the largest portion of this deal, and we're going to keep the Titans in Nashville for the long term.
Ben, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Jared.
Ben Eagles with us here on the program. Stillman and Company. Well, react to that. We'll get your reaction. 615-737-1025 if you want to weigh in right here on the program. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
For the win! Yes!
Vanderbilt wins it. All the big stories.
Quarterback carousel. What the Titans decide to do at the quarterback position.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
10% chance of making the playoffs.
Checkered flag is in the
team
air.
with incredible talent.
Every team in the league. The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
What's up, everybody? Michelle Knezvik here for Superbook Sports. And listen, make 2023 the year you beat Vegas. Superbook Sports gives you the chance every week to go head-to-head with the best odds makers in Las Vegas. No fancy computer algorithms, no guys across the pond setting lines for American sports, just the best team of odds makers in the business behind the counter at Superbook in Las Vegas. Plus, check out some of the best odds boosts and promo bets anywhere. Download the Superbook Sportsbook app or visit superbook.com to start your battle against Vegas right now. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
If you missed the latest from Stillman and Company.
You guys have been talking about, it's time to bring it back. It's time to reset it. It's time to rebuild it. It's time to move on. It's time to, like Crispy said, you're gonna have to be patient in the future. I know there are going to be people that jump off the bandwagon. I know there are people that have already jumped off the bandwagon. But I think if you really love this team, I think you owe it to be patient. And maybe after 3 or 4 years, we'll see, Barry Trotz is not that guy, and they'll move off. But I'm just telling you right now, to Crispy's point, be patient. And I am willing to be patient. Jared Stillman, the most impatient person in the world. You should go to an airport with me. You should go through customs with me. The most impatient person on the planet. I am willing to be patient.
Stillman and Company, weekdays from 2 to 6 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Now, your Game Center update.
The NFL offseason news continues once again today. The Baltimore Ravens have placed the non-exclusive franchise tag on quarterback Lamar Jackson. The non-exclusive tag gives Jackson the ability to negotiate a longer-term contract with any team, and the Ravens would have a chance to match it or let Jackson walk and get compensated with 2 first-round picks. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport on what this could mean for Jackson's market.
This is essentially putting it out there to other teams. If you want him for the right price, then certainly you can have him. And I would say the fact that someone else could sign Lamar Jackson to an offer sheet.
The Nashville Predators failed to gain any ground in the playoff race last night. After a Winnipeg loss in overtime earlier in the evening, the Preds lost in a shootout 4-3 to Vancouver. Rookie Luke Evangelista tallied his first 2 NHL goals to force overtime. The team remains 6 points out of the final wildcard spot. The Preds are back in action Thursday in Arizona. I'm Ian Safar for 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Bobby and Rex Road. Chase and Michelle.
Caroline, Willie, D-Bay.
Stillman and Company. Nashville's best sports talk.
Crank it up.
102.5 and 106.3.
Cranks it, he scores!
On both sides of the ball. One big possession.
Touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports, live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. Great stuff with Ben Eagles, the senior advisor to the mayor on the new stadium. Now, we will get the counterpoint in that when Councilmember Bob Mendez joins us in the 5 o'clock hour of today's program. And so, like I said on the front end of this, I am not an expert on the new stadium and the financing for the new stadium. And there's one thing that I can't get over after that discussion. And Ian, I'm actually kind of interested, in your opinion of this. And I'll tell you why. Because my opinion, when I'm talking, about this, not only am I thinking about what they're saying, but I'm also thinking about the next question to ask, and I'm trying to like manage the clock of the show. And so it's like I can hear, but I don't completely hear at the same time. And I do wonder, when reacting to what we were told, if it felt like it was just kind of too over our heads, or if it felt like they hit all the right points and all the questions to be asked and it makes sense. And I kind of wonder your reaction or thought on that.
I mean, I think it hit all. I mean, it is a complicated issue in general, right? So some of the answers are going to be complicated. So I think all of us wish it was a super easy decision about, hey, it's going to cost a lot of money, but it's totally worth it. So there's going to be a lot of back and forth. But I think I think you did a great job of putting out counterpoints. I thought Ben did a great job of putting out the research that they've done and some of the research that they've done from the mayor's office and some of the independent contractors and stuff that they've talked to. So, I mean, I thought it was a very good conversation in general.
So I have two big questions with all of this. Number one, is the renovation to Nissan Stadium that much money? Is it really $1.8 billion?
Yeah.
In order to renovate the stadium to a first-class facility as promised by the lease? Because, they put out that one-sheeter when they announced the stadium deal of, I forget what the company's name is, GSV or whatever it was, that said, it'll cost $1.8 billion to renovate it. So if it's going to cost $1.8 billion to renovate, then you might as well just build a new stadium, with which I agree. I do agree that if it's going to cost $1.8 billion to renovate, then let's just go ahead and build a new stadium. Makes sense to me. But would a renovation really be that much? I mean, $1.8 billion, that's the cost of a new stadium anyways, right?
I believe so, yeah. Or two, just right there. Okay. Might as well, yeah.
So that one, keep an eye on. That I want more proof. Like, if I could say, like, I want more proof.
About the cost of the renovation.
Yeah, that it's actually $1.8 billion.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
The other question I have in all of this is, if this is not your solution to the problem, this stadium, Dome Stadium, team's happy, state's happy, mayor's office is happy, and we should note that this does feel like an anti-stadium mayor in Mayor Cooper with his history of the soccer stadium, a lot of which he was right on and I was wrong on. What's the other solution? Like, if you are telling me that this is a bad deal, and I would agree with what Ben said when he said that, the thing that they keep saying is, well, go back and negotiate, go back and negotiate, go back and negotiate. Well, what's the solution? Is the solution to renovate Nissan Stadium? Is the solution to add in, more money just straight up? Is it more? What's the solution if it's not this project? And when I read the blog post that was put out by Councilmember Mendez, he writes, quote, "For all the reasons," and they're the ones that we discussed with Ben about, is the renovation really that much? And, what do we make about the land not actually being free and that taxpayers are not really completely relieved of the debt? He writes, "For all the reasons, I think the financial terms are not good enough. And I think the financing plan will force the area more toward tourism than being a neighborhood. I cannot support the current new stadium proposal. I hope the mayor's office and the team go back to the drawing board and find a better path." And the question I'm going to ask Councilmember Mendez, I'm going to say, if you're the one that says that they need to go back to the drawing board and find a better path, well, I feel like you need to give us a path.
Maybe, yeah, or have some independent person did he have an independent study about the cost?
I don't think he did, but he did include in his blog post like
the cost of the renovation.
Yeah, other stadiums and
maybe we could get like another second or a third opinion on the renovation cost. I don't know how many there have been already.
You know what the problem with that is though? It's like my theory on college football. At the end of the day, whoever is in charge of college football, people say college football needs a commissioner, and I'm like, well, whoever is paying that commissioner is ultimately going to own college football. Right now, it's the TV companies because they're paying all the conferences, and so the conferences do whatever TV wants them to do because TV's the one who's paying them. And so if you put in a commissioner of college football, well, who's paying the commissioner of college football? Then whoever's paying them is going to get their way. That's what's going to happen.
Pull the strings.
Yes. Yeah. So if we're like, okay, we want a completely neutral person to tell us how much it would cost in order to renovate this stadium, I mean, whoever pays that person's going to get the outcome of whatever they want it to be.
Makes sense. I see where you're going there.
And that's one thing that I guess I struggle with a little bit. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Lee has been waiting patiently. He's up next. What's up, Lee?
Hey, Jared. You were talking about the cost of the renovation. It might not be $1.8 billion. It might be less than that. But what do you have after you renovate it? You still have an old stadium that has an open-air feel that's just sort of a Band-Aid that's not part of the glitter, the glow, and the advancement of Nashville.
Well, I mean, if they completely renovate the stadium, it'll be a nice stadium.
No, it won't. No, it won't. It's still going to be open air.
Well, yeah, but an open-air stadium doesn't mean it's not a nice stadium. Like the Miami Dolphins Stadium is a nice stadium. It's open air.
You're not going to have all the other activities, the concerts and stuff like that you can have with that. You know,
let me say this.
Look at the Bridgestone.
I hear you, Lee. Lee, I appreciate your call. I hear what you're saying. I'll say, as a fan, I want a dome stadium. Like, this has nothing to do with what's best for the city and what's practical, and I want a dome stadium. And it's not even so much about the Super Bowl and the Final Four as much as it is that I don't want it to be freaking cold. That's really what it's about. Where I sit at the Titan Stadium in September, it is scorching. In December, it's cold. I mean, I would just like to take a jacket and walk in and then not take the jacket off. That's what I want. When I have a concert, I want to go to the concert on a night in July, on a Saturday night, and know that the concert is going to happen because there's a dome over the stadium, and there's no chance of me sitting in that parking lot
Those
outside
lightning
of that
delays
Exxon
are just
during
terrible.
the Garth Brooks concert that never happened. Like, yes, okay. But you can't say that if they renovate the stadium, that it can't be a nice stadium. Like, that's just, you know, if you renovate it, it could be a nice one. Man, this is getting people worked up. It's
a lot of money. It's a big thing. It's a long commitment. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of factors that roll into this. So
Keith from Bowling Green says, I hope the new stadium lasts longer than 25 years. You know what gets me? And this may show you all how old of a pop I really am.
In 25 years, they need a new one again. It's just a cycle. 25 years is too long.
It does kind of feel that way.
Yeah.
But, you know, just to show you how old of an old man I am, I have right here, you know, my ergonomic back support that I now have to. I remember a couple years ago when I was working First Take for the draft, and Stephen A. Smith had this, like, little cushion he'd sit on, and before he would go on, he would talk to, like, the studio audience, and he would be like, now, before y'all make fun of my cushion, just know that I am not Beyonce, okay? So I need this to sit on. Well, now I have to have one of these ergonomic back pillows here because of back support, whatever. So I'm an old man. But I remember when the Chicago Bears had to play at the University of Illinois for a couple years because they were renovating Soldier Field. And that when they were done with Soldier Field, like that was going to be state of the art. And that feels like that was 10 minutes ago. And now all of a sudden the Chicago Bears are like, we can't play at Soldier Field anymore. And there is a part of me that's like, God, why do we have to do this every 5 years? It's like, oh, stadium's not good anymore. Why? Like, is there anything wrong with the Houston Texans stadium? That stadium's just as old.
Well, is it that? Not quite as old, but it's an indoor stadium. So
I know, but it's basically as old as our stadium.
Yeah. Well, the dome gives them a little bit of a leg up. So, you know, I don't know. Probably. Just considering how much they spent in comparison to the Titans at the beginning when it was first built, probably gives Houston a little bit of a leg up.
So Craig texts in and says, if you renovate and keep the open-air stadium, you can kiss the Super Bowl, WrestleMania, etc. goodbye. It's going to cost a lot of money, and you might as well get the extra events and money to come. As excited as I would be for a Super Bowl and everything else here, apparently, like, we really don't make a lot of money off that stuff. That as much as it's like, look at all the money that comes in.
More of a marketing tool.
Yeah, it's just
like a infomercial about
just,
the city,
I mean,
more so than money generator.
It's bullcrap. As far as like it's fun. Like we had the Super Bowl. It's fun. It's not like, okay, now everybody in school's going to get a new laptop because we had the Super Bowl. Now, if we made weed legal, that might change things a little bit. But that's a different discussion for a different day. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. I got a bunch of takeaways from the Combine that I want to get into as well. 615-737-1025, Stillman and Company here on the program. Hey, play hooky and join 1025 The Game at Jasper's, located at 1918 West End Avenue this Thursday for the first day of the NCAA tournament. While you're there, take advantage of the shot and a beer special. That's a shot of Nelson's Greenbrier Tennessee whiskey plus a bottled domestic beer for just $10. Jasper's oversized bar, TVs, and game room make them the place to catch all the games this year.
Want the latest on college football and Nashville sports?
They can be a fully formed model of what they're going to be offensively moving forward.
Join Outkick 360's Chad Withrow every Friday at 5 with Stillman and Company.
You don't know what's going to happen with the roster or the team.
He'll bring opinions and charisma for a full half hour every week.
This is a good lesson about sports and what we think and what actually happens.
Chad Withrow on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Imagine yourself in a new Toyota. Like Corolla Cross, the first ever Corolla SUV, or the best-selling Toyota Camry, now available with all-wheel drive. And you can get 3.99 APR financing on a new 23 Camry, now through April 4th. With approved credit through TFS, excludes TRD and hybrids. And every new Toyota comes with 2 years no-cost maintenance. Get complete details at buyatoyota.com. Ready, set, go get your Toyota today. Toyota, let's go places.
The Electronic Express tax refund sale is extended. Get up to 50% off doorbusters and 40% off in every department, including 4K TVs, computers, gaming consoles, Bluetooth speakers, smartwatches, and more. Refresh your kitchen with appliances in stock and ready to deliver. And buy now, pay later with up to 3 years free financing. Shop in-store or online at electronicexpress.com and express delivery on most items. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Hey, it's John Tesh. We've all felt the impact of inflation on everything from food to housing to gas. But most people don't realize the cost of your home and auto insurance is also likely to go up. With the rising cost of building materials, car parts, and labor, even the insurance companies are taking a hit, which means you will too. So if you're working with a company that only has one option and not a company that shops multiple carriers to find the best deal, you're wasting your money. It's why you should be working with Zander Insurance. They represent over 24 top insurance companies that are competing for your business, meaning you get the right home and auto coverage at the lowest prices this year and every year. And Zander's service can't be beat, I know from experience. Just check out their reviews. Saving money has to be a priority these days. Go to Zander.com or call 800-356-4282 and find out how much you can save. You'll see why over 500,000 families trust Zander.
Want to weigh in on the conversation? It's a brain booster. Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Would you be skeptical, though, if you were on the council and you didn't have a term sheet right now?
Well, if I was on the council, I would look into all the details, and then I would be for it. Because it frees us up of $1 billion liability that exists right now. So this is a home run deal for the city financially, but you have to understand the whole deal in order to understand it. Now, for me personally, the fact that we're getting land back, in these other deals, we put land out.
Which you didn't like about the soccer
I
deal.
did not.
Yeah.
I did not like that any public land going to support a sports deal, I didn't like. So I tell people about this deal. If you are critical of sports deals, if you are critical of where the city has been in sports deals, this is the deal for you. Because it redresses all the things that were kind of a concern in these other sports deals, and it fixes them. It frees the general taxpayer back to being just working for the city and not working for a team. Now, a generation ago, this made a lot of sense, and cities would have traded places with us in order to get the Titans here in the first place.
That was Mayor Cooper on this show after that deal was announced in October. And I am going to say this with Councilmember Mendez, who is probably the largest opponent to the stadium deal. He is right that it does feel like in October, the mayor's office and the team, the way they announced the deal, made it sound like deal's done, stadium on the way, signed, sealed, delivered. And it's like, whoa, we've got more to get to before we get there. And I do recognize that. And I do recognize some of his concerns as legitimate concerns. And I'm not smart enough to be able to tell you all what to want or do. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Do you have a thought? You want to go to the phones?
To the phones.
Ellie's up next. Thank you for waiting. What's up, Ellie?
I mean, the question for Councilman Mendez is, do you want the Titans here? We have zero leverage to negotiate with the Titans. And if they're doing anything positive for us, I mean, do we want to go back to being Nashville 30 years ago? The only reason why we have leverage against the soccer team was because we had the Titans. The Titans changed the city. And I'm sure a city like St. Louis, San Antonio will be more than happy to take the Titans off our hands. Don't be an idiot. They're being good to us. It sounds like a reasonable deal. Just suck it up and let's take it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I appreciate your call. The one flaw with that is it costs $500 million to relocate. Like, you have to pay the rest of the league $500 million to relocate. And so we're sitting here talking about Titans ownership paying, what is it ultimately going to be, somewhere in the ballpark of $800 million plus overruns. So between PSLs and money out of their pockets, it's going to be roughly $800 million. I mean, you're going to have to pay $500 million to move, and then you're going to have to get a deal that's better than what it would cost to renovate the stadium, which is what the city, or what I guess Councilmember Mendez is at least kind of trying to use as the alternative here. And I don't think that's going to happen. You know, to move to a new city and then pay $500 million on top of probably having to pay the $700 million that they're going to have to pay to get the stadium they want anyways. I mean, I think this is a really good deal for the Titans. I also think the deal the Titans have right now is a really good deal for the Titans. And that the one thing that I was told was, if somebody else bought the team, and I think this came from the team, but I, don't necessarily put it right there with the team. If somebody bought the team, if somebody paid $3 billion, or I guess today it's probably, $4 billion, $5 billion, because that's how the NFL is. If somebody paid $5 billion today for the Titans, do you think they're coming in and saying, okay, let's build a stadium and I'm going to put $800 million up for it? Or are they going to take the existing lease and they're going to say, nope, you owe me a first-class facility, you build it for me? And my gut would be that's what they would do, because I'm already paying $5 billion. I don't want to make it $6 billion. So that is an important part of it. But I mean, I'm not saying the Titans can't leave. I am telling you, though, that I find it unlikely that the Titans would leave, given how advantageous the current deal that they have is right now. Jeff says, talking the cost of a new dome stadium at $1.8 billion, averaged out over 25 years, will the new venue pay back the annual cost of $80 million a year for 25 years? I don't think it's that simple. I mean, I wish it was, but I don't think it's that simple. Texter says it seems like these council members that come on opposing the stadium deals, for the most part, just do it for political purposes. I'm going to say this about Mayor Cooper. And I know a lot of you have your own opinions of Mayor Cooper, and this is not really a political take. When he came on this program to oppose the soccer stadium, I went back and listened to it before we got into this, because I was wondering, what was his tone then compared to what his tone is now. And I was wondering if it was going to be to the point of the texter, this political grandstanding of don't build the soccer stadium, it's bad. And that now, because he's mayor, it's build the football stadium, it's good. But that wasn't really his tone. The points he was making, in hindsight, are very valid. His biggest beef at the time was the fairgrounds location, and I thought that was going to get a lot more foot traffic to the fairgrounds, and that was going to add to that part of town. And so far, I hate to say it, doesn't feel like that's really happened. It feels like the only time anybody ever goes over there is to watch soccer, and nobody that goes over there to watch soccer has anywhere to park. And all he was saying was, why did we not look at other parts of the city and say, okay, what's most practical for building the stadium? And the reason we didn't is because the guy buying the team and building the stadium wanted the land that they gave him. And he was right about that. The other thing in that interview that I went back and listened to that I remember was we were talking about how good the NFL and that stadium has been for the city of Nashville. And, you know, Mayor Cooper was like, well, that's the NFL and the MLS is not the NFL. And guess what? Mayor Cooper's right. We don't go a day on this show without talking about the Titans. I mean, it is very rarely out of the 16 segments that we do that not one of them is about the Titans. You know, normally it's like the Predators are in the playoffs or the Predators traded away, you know, their entire team, or Barry Trotz is about to be the new general manager. And even then, there's still probably Titans topics that day. And he was right. I mean, the MLS, I have to be honest with you guys. I am disgusted by this MLS TV deal. That you have to have Apple TV to watch the game.
That's correct.
I am disgusted by that. You want us to give you the land to build a team? Put the games on TV. I mean, you sound like a fake league when it's like, oh, no, you got to download this app to watch our games. Don't have to do that with football. You know what I mean? Like, that drives me crazy. That I have to log in, download, pay. Do you have to pay to watch these games?
Well, the MLS season pass is not free.
How much is it?
I think it was $100 for the season.
Oh, God.
For the season.
I got to pay $100
well, you can watch
to
any
watch
game.
The games?
You can watch any MLS game, and there's no blackouts and all that kind of stuff. And I think it works with most of the streamings and the TVs and the Comcast or Xfinity. It says it works with it, so I don't know. They've been free for the first couple of weeks, so
download, log in, forgot your password, you know, all that kind of. It just drives me crazy. But at the time, Mayor Cooper was like, look, the NFL and the MLS are different. He's right. So for everybody to say that, oh, these politicians are grandstanding and that's, oh, yeah, they're only saying they're against it for political purposes. At the time, I felt like Mayor Cooper was in here basically giving his pitch for why he should be mayor. But when I went back and listened to it, it was him raising valid concerns. So, you know, I look back at it and I'm like, I was in the wrong, he was in the right. And that has really given me a significant pause when it comes to this because, look, I want a dome stadium. I want the Super Bowl here. I was just at the Super Bowl. Let me tell you something. If the Super Bowl was here, it would be freaking awesome. That would be like one of those moments that when the Super Bowl was over, and I don't care if it's the freaking Jaguars in the Super Bowl, like the second that Super Bowl's over, because I think we'd probably only get one and they'd never come back. I hope they would, but I don't think they would. But that moment when it's over, that would feel like a wedding. Like I would be depressed when it's over. Like our Super Bowl is over.
It would have been wild. It would be wild.
Oh,
downtown.
It'd be freaking wild. So, I mean, I want all these things, but, you know, I feel like you have to be responsible, too. And that's just the approach that I take to it. All right, a lot went down at the Combine. Trevor Maddich will join us next. His thoughts on all of it. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. And let me just go ahead and tell everybody right now that, we'll do this later. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
I think it's a really good move. TD, it's never the offseason for ESPN's Teron Davenport.
I mean, that's something you obviously have to look at.
He's always talking about what's next for the Tennessee Titans.
Quarterback is a really important thing that they have to get determined.
Check out TD, Mondays at 1, Thursdays at 3, and Friday mornings at 8:30. Plus, the Talkin' with TD podcast.
Looking forward to that.
TD is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Your chance to get that rare, hard-to-find luxury pre-owned Rolex timepiece is here at Genesis Diamonds. This Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, Genesis is hosting an epic pre-owned luxury Rolex event featuring a stunning new selection of these hard-to-find watches. Hulks, Submariners, Daytonas, Pepsis, Batmans, all the hottest models that people wait years for. These are carefully chosen timepieces in pristine condition. It's time to treat yourself for something great. And listen to this. With the purchase of any luxury pre-owned Rolex at this event, Genesis will give you a beautiful pair of 2-carat lab-grown diamond stud earrings of the highest quality free. That's a $6,000 value. Also for this event, our pre-owned Rolex buyers are on site offering top dollar for your Rolex. Come see the largest selection of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches in the state and take advantage of our special financing and get a 2-carat lab-grown pair of diamond stud earrings of the highest quality valued at $6,000 absolutely free. This Thursday, Friday, and Saturday only, and only at Genesis Diamonds, your home for luxury pre-owned Rolexes. Green Hills and Cool Spring. While supplies last, see store for details.
The team at Mercedes-Benz of Music City have done it again. Here's Edwin Vickery to explain.
4-time recipient of Best of the Best. Less than 10% of the dealers in the country receive this award. How did you do it? We say culture eats strategy for lunch, because we can strategize all we want, but unless you have the right culture and chemistry in the dealership, it will not work.
Live the dream at Mercedes-Benz of Music City, mbofmc.com.
Attention all fire and safety line experts. Middle Tennessee's fastest growing fire protection company is looking for experienced service technicians, designers, and sprinkler system experts like you. Tired of working for a large corporate employer? Work for a company where you're more than just a number. Jarrett Fire Protection is owned and operated by Nashville natives and wants to invite you to grow with their amazing team.
Hi, I'm Jason Jarrett, owner of Jarrett Companies. I'm looking to hire experienced sprinkler experts and will offer a sign-on bonus of up to $5,000 for certified professionals, in addition to our great benefits that include a 401k match, PTO, and top pay with annual bonuses. We will also provide you with the top-of-the-line tools, trucks, and equipment that you need to grow your career. Our customer base is large and business is booming with many opportunities for advancement. Give us a call or go online to jarrettfire.com and apply today to become a member of our family and protect our community. That's JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, where we are above and beyond industry standards.
When you want live and local,
If they were just better at the offensive line.
You can be a contender in the AFC again.
They've had more winning seasons than not.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game has you covered. Looking for some national programming?
Why do I want to get a running back like that 5 more years? The AFC now is so deep at quarterback.
Check out 94.9 The Fan. Nashville's home for all things sports is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and 94.9 The Fan.
Hey Nashville, this is Gary Bettman. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
The question mark on Anthony Richardson, of course, is his lack of experience. But my goodness, the measurables are off the charts. And we knew he'd be good at the combine. It was even better than we thought. Good enough that you moved him up to number 4 overall and the 3rd quarterback off the board. What things were you hearing from NFL teams after that performance this weekend?
Well, he's 6'4", 244 pounds. He runs a 4.43. That is rare. And you see the arm strength that he has when you watch, and just the production he had at times. He had 2 400-yard passing games, 2 100-yard rushing games. There were flashes. And here's what I keep getting when I'm talking to scouts and general managers is I'm scared to death that we're drafting a quarterback that is going to be 2-3 years down the road and may never get it. He just may never be the guy. But I'm also scared to death if I pass on him, then I'm going to have to play him once or twice a year because he has a chance to be absolutely special. That's how talented he is.
Todd McShay on Anthony Richardson at the Combine. He balled out. He's got the talent. He's got the talent. And now everybody's talking about Anthony Richardson. Todd McShay's mock draft's out. He's got Anthony Richardson going at 5 with a trade up with the Raiders, moving up to the 5th pick and taking Anthony Richardson, which I think would be catastrophic for Anthony Richardson. But that's what he has on there. Trevor Maddich joins us as he always does, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics. When experience matters. Trev, your reaction to the quarterback performances. We got Bryce Young's weight, we got C.J. Stroud throwing the ball, and we got that unbelievable workout from Anthony Richardson. Your thoughts on the quarterback this weekend at the Combine?
Well, I thought C.J. Stroud made the case that he should be the first quarterback taken. Combination of size, athleticism, and especially accuracy. Now, it helped that he was throwing to Jackson Smith-Njigba, his receiver from Ohio State. Now, he didn't get to throw to him too much this last season, but he's been there throwing to Smith-Njigba when he's been healthy, and that helped him. But he was dropping dimes over and over and over again. One of the better accuracy performances by a quarterback at the Combine we've seen in several years. I thought that was great. Will Levis did not impress me. Strong arm, but he kept on overthrowing deep routes. He kept on throwing guys out of bounds on the sideline. Now, sometimes that is you don't know the receiver. So you don't know how to anticipate where he's going to be and when to throw it, and that's fair. But he still threw it out of bounds. So when you look at Alabama, oh, come on, spacing his name,
Bryce
the Alabama
Young.
quarterback. Yeah, Bryce Young. He didn't do much. He's going to be really doing his stuff at Pro Day. But he weighed in at over 200 pounds. He was 204 pounds. And that would still make him the lightest quarterback taken in the first round in many, many years. And so, but at least he wasn't under 200 pounds. So,
yeah, but does it really count because he didn't do anything?
No, not really, because he's got so much on tape, right? There are guys that really need to perform. There are guys that surprise you with their performance. There's some guys that disappoint you with their performance athletically at the Combine. Bryce Young's got nothing to prove at the Combine except that he can, number one, answer the questions in the interviews and, talk about how he understands concepts, especially defensive concepts. But more than that is just that they can take a look at him in his underwear. He's not a thick guy. He's 5'10" and an eighth. So, yeah, he's over 5'10" by an eighth. And the thing is, the thing that the teams will have to decide with him is, can he take the hits? I mean, when you look at Tua's a bit more stout. Tua Tagovailoa, former Alabama quarterback, now with Miami Dolphins. He's more stout than Bryce Young, but the way Tua falls, the back of his head tends to hit the ground hard a lot. And we've seen a lot of concussions in the NFL from Tua. Bryce Young has been good by and large at avoiding big hits because he's got good anticipation and he's got a tremendous ability to get the ball out with such a lightning fast release that he can pause a beat longer than most quarterbacks can and still get the ball out before the defender gets in a position close enough to deliver a big hit. Last year, it didn't work out that way because his receivers let him down and he couldn't throw with as much anticipation. But I think he showed enough on tape that he can get the ball out quickly, that he can move in between those big SEC linemen and see what's going on downfield. And I think that really is the biggest key, that as NFL teams look at his hips, look at his body, and see if they think that he can hold up to the NFL the way he did the SEC. And then, of course, speaking of the SEC, there's your guy, Anthony Richardson.
He balled out.
You think?
So I am going to explain to you my reaction to Anthony Richardson's workout, and I want your breakdown of my reaction. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
I mean, we're all friends here. Okay, so I think that Anthony Richardson proved with that workout that he has the potential to be a star. But the gap between where he is and star is a massive road. And to act like there's no chance that he won't be able to travel that road is ridiculous. I know C.J. Stroud can play quarterback in the NFL right now. I don't know if he'll be a superstar, but I know he can do it. Same with Bryce Young. He might get hurt, but he can do it. But C.J. Stroud, where he is right now and where he could be are, literally night and day. Now, the team that I think should take Anthony Richardson, the Indianapolis Colts. And this is what I would do. This is my plan for Anthony Richardson. Shane Steichen just took the job. He's the former offensive coordinator of the Eagles. Shane Steichen should sign Gardner Minshew to be his quarterback. He should then draft Anthony Richardson, and the day they draft Richardson, he should go to the podium and he should say, Gardner Minshew is our starting quarterback, and that Gardner is going to start for this season, but also have everybody on board that Gardner also might start next season. And Anthony Richardson's going to learn Jalen Hurts' offense. I'm going to hand the ball to Jonathan Taylor 25 times a game. I'm going to sign Dalton Schultz from the Dallas Cowboys to play tight end. And I am going to install with Shane Steichen Jalen Hurts' offense for Anthony Richardson, and Gardner Minshew's going to show him how to do it. Your thoughts?
The arithmetic on your analysis adds up. Based on what you said, that is a plausible scenario.
Thank you.
Especially because it would give Richardson time to learn. And he needs time to learn. I mean, last year was his first year as a starter in college football, and he was up and down. He had some spectacular games, and he had some major head-scratching quarters, halves, even full games. And you're wondering, with all the great workout things that he did, a 4.4 340, I think it was. He weighed in at 244 pounds. The guy's vertical was off the charts. His broad jump was nearly record-setting. It was just incredible. So why wasn't he more effective, especially against subpar defenses, on a consistent basis at Florida? So he will need time to fix some of those problems and develop into an NFL quarterback. And his ceiling is every bit as high as you're suggesting it might be. You know, that's what's got scouts salivating. If they can teach him how to be a passer and not just a thrower that occasionally gets the ball close enough to a receiver that the receiver can make a play on a consistent basis, then the rest of those athletic traits will come into play, and this guy will be a nightmare for opposing defenses. That ceiling is amazing, but the floor is the lowest of any quarterback I think you would take in the first 3 rounds, and that's the risk.
Would you do it if you were the Colts at 4, like I said?
No. I the only way that I would take Anthony Richardson in the first round is if I treat him from the get-go like the Saints treat Taysom Hill. Hill's their backup quarterback, but he's also very versatile, and they use him at but he's backup. Nobody there thinks he's a starter, but they use him at H-back, at receiver, on special teams. They've got packages in for him at quarterback on short yardage and goal line, and some in the big field. And they use him as a versatile all-around threat. I think if you were to say that we're taking Anthony Richardson for the foreseeable future to be our backup quarterback, but like Taysom Hill, we're going to teach him how to play H-back and receiver. We're going to get him on the field where we can use those athletic traits with the ball in his hand, just not requiring that he throw it and decipher all the defensive stuff and all that stuff from the beginning, and then see how he grows as a quarterback. I think he's a first-round talent in that role from a standpoint of the contribution that he would make to the team. And then you've got the opportunity to see if he can grow as a quarterback to reach that high ceiling. But even if he doesn't, he's still a guy that can help you. Right now, as a quarterback, pure quarterback, I wouldn't take him. I wouldn't take him in the first round because I think he is more likely for the floor to be the closer result for him than that incredibly high ceiling that people think that he has.
Trevor Maddich is with us, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics. Todd McShay's new mock draft is out. Who he has the Titans picking and Trevor's reaction to it. We'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company right here. If you want to see Chicago, we are giving away tickets. Be caller 5 right now, and you will see Chicago at First Bank Amphitheater before you can even buy those tickets on September 25th. Tickets go on sale Friday at 10 a.m. 615-737-1025. Good luck to caller 5. Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 The Game.
Every Wednesday at noon.
That fits the mentality of what they're going to do.
Outkick 360's Jonathan Hutton joins Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace to talk all things Titans and NFL.
Much more creative in how you go about calling certain plays.
He's got opinions and insights on the two-tone blue.
That doesn't mean that you can't have great or don't need great quarterback play.
Catch Hutton every Wednesday at noon on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Middle Tennessee, you can count on an award-winning service team for all your home maintenance and improvement needs. Lee Company, we're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and trusted by thousands of homeowners in our community. Our team is ready to assist with all your home maintenance projects, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, appliance service, and more. Experience the convenience of calling one phone number for all your home maintenance needs. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. And a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
All of us at Cromwell Media, who owns this radio station, are recognizing 2 special teammates this month. Andrea Kamer is celebrating her 16th year as our corporate business manager. It's no secret, Andrea is the glue that holds everything together around here. And we're saluting Caroline Fenton, one of our stellar co-hosts of the Midday Show on 102.5, 106.3 The Game, as she wraps up her 2nd year with us. Andrea and Caroline, you are what makes this a special place to work. Want to join our team? Send us a note at together@cromwellmedia.com.
Adult education in Tennessee. It's more than just a diploma. It's a path to a better life. It's a way to help you communicate more effectively. From high school equivalency classes and testing to English as a second language and college prep courses, there's no shortage of opportunities to enhance the lives of you and your family. Adult education in Tennessee. It's more than just a diploma. Go to tnworkready.com to unlock your maximum potential.
Brought to you by Tennessee Adult Education, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
The sports talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Michelle Knezovic and Junie Riddle for Michelle and Junie.
As long as he wants to coach there, he will be able to coach there.
I think that really did save the hope of this team.
Michelle and Junie, presented by Superbook Sports, every Saturday morning at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Is this a team that you think is closer to competing, or are they closer to maybe like retooling? And what would you do if you were the new GM in Tennessee?
Well, I think you got to look certainly at the offensive line is the big issue. And certainly I think about quarterback, we can get to that as well, and what's going to happen there. But the offensive line was the problematic area. Paris Johnson Jr. from Ohio State, talented kid. Certainly he's going to get better with coaching and more experience. I projected him to the Tennessee Titans. But you think about that division, Indianapolis is going to go get a quarterback, right? Jacksonville's got Trevor Lawrence. They're set. So they're in great shape as well. So I think you look at where we are right now with the Tennessee Titans, and the Houston Texans are going to get their quarterback. We know that. So you have a young quarterback in Houston, young quarterback in Indy, and you got Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. And here's Tennessee sitting there looking at maybe, like I say, the offensive lineman out of Ohio State. So a team right now, we know what Mike Vrabel's done. He's done a phenomenal job coaching this football team. There's areas they need to address, figure out quarterback as well moving forward, but get this offensive line straightened out to the best of their capability so it won't be as problematic as it was this past season.
That was Mel Kiper Jr. talking about the Titans. His partner, Todd McShay, put out his mock draft this morning. And he, like Mel Kiper, has the Titans drafting Paris Johnson Jr., the offensive tackle out of Ohio State. Todd writes, I had Johnson to Tennessee in February too. Then Mel projected the same move 2 weeks ago. It just makes sense. Johnson is an easy mover with 26 starts across 2 positions, sliding over to left tackle from right guard last year. The Titans released Taylor Lewan, blah, 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 blah. We already know the story about the Titans. He has 6'6", 313-pound size and jarring power in his hands. After allowing 49 sacks last season, Tennessee should focus on building out from the offensive line and trying to get an offensive line that was underwhelming last year back on track. Now, Here's the thing I will say. Normally, I hate when it's these guys are like, oh, they need a tackle. All right, well, just go put a tackle in their mock draft. But the Titans have so many needs that I just say take the best player available. According to Todd's rankings, at that point, Paris Johnson would be the best available player to take. Trevor Maddich, ESPN, is with us, presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, where experience matters. Trev, your thoughts on Todd McShay joining the chorus and mocking Paris Johnson to the Titans at 11?
It makes sense, and it's also safe because building from the inside out is something that the Titans need to do. It's something that a coach like Mike Vrabel, who as a defensive coach understands the value of a good offensive line, would be focused on. And that makes sense. And Paris Johnson in that position is one of several players at tackle that would be good. I mean, keep in mind that he started last year at right guard for Ohio State. 2 years ago. Last year he moves over to left tackle and played exceptionally well, but people talk about how Anthony Richardson has so much more upside and so much more polish to add to his game as a quarterback because last year was his first year as a starter. Well, Paris Johnson last year was his full year as a left tackle, and he excelled. He only gave up 2 sacks last year from that position. And so he does need to work on functional strength. He's got more work to do on his technique and on his polish, but he is worthy of the 11th pick. And I think that it's a safe pick if he's available to take him. Not flashy, but it's hard to say that they made a mistake if they do.
So speaking of safe picks, an unsafe pick comes at 12 in Todd's latest draft, where he has Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle at Georgia, falling all the way to 12 after the arrest. And he has him now as the 13th best player in this draft, right in front of Will Levis. I mean, again, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know the whole situation, and it's incredibly stupid what the Georgia recruiting staffer and Jalen Carter and all those guys got themselves into drag racing at 2 o'clock in the morning. Freaking stupid. But I'm not sure that it necessarily equates to a crime or even equates to bad guy. You know, this is not the Alabama basketball player driving the gun back to the scene of a murder. You know, this seems a little different to me. If Jalen Carter's there at 11, Trev, I don't know how they can pass that up because the idea of Carter next to Simmons would be unstoppable, I'd have to believe.
Well, if they made that choice, it would be a bigger upgrade to the overall talent and explosiveness of the team than if they took Paris Johnson, the tackle, at that position, the offensive tackle. And when you're drafting as high as 11, you're really looking for somebody who will impact games. Mm-hmm. Johnson's the kind of a guy that will hold down the position for the next 10 years. That's what you hope for. And that's enough at left tackle, a guy that will hold it down and give you a good, steady performance there. But Jalen Carter is the kind of guy that wrecks opponents single-handedly. And you're right, you put him on the field at the same time with Jeffrey Simmons, who has already proven he can single-handedly wreck opponents in the NFL. Then you would upgrade the team greatly. And by the way, this is a deep group of offensive linemen at guard and tackle and center, by the way. And so I think in the second round, even the third round, they should be able to find guys that can come in and compete for them. You don't have to take a tackle in the first round, but you're talking about Jalen Carter. I like the way you put it, Jared, when you said it just doesn't feel like it's as bad as it seems. Because two people died, right? The driver of the other car, where the 2 people died, had a blood alcohol level that was over twice the legal limit.
Stupid.
And the whole thing, it's just ugly. It just feels bad. It is bad. It's terrible. And Jalen Carter's name is associated with it. But everything I've been able to read is that while he clearly did things that you could say were reckless, that were, bad in a lot of ways, it looks like he's only being charged with misdemeanors. Mm-hmm. And so from a standpoint of the NFL, you need to decide then if he's a bad guy who's going to be a problem going forward, because it doesn't look like he's going to be in jail on those misdemeanors for the next 3 years, in which case you couldn't draft him. And so if you think as an NFL team that the legal jeopardy for him will not include jail time, or at least not more than a few months, then you can make the cold, almost inhuman calculation that as bad as that felt, this guy dropping to us is too good to pass up, and he's going to be available to us. Let's see if he's going to be humble enough and contrite enough for his role that we can actually mold him, and that he won't be just a loose cannon on our deck at all times. Because I'll tell you this, if he's available at number 11 and the Titans are convinced that he's not a horrible guy, you know, and he's not going to end up going to jail, then the short-term backlash on social media, I think, will fade, and he will end up being one of those players that, like Jeffrey Simmons, for artificial reasons, with Simmons it's an injury and this is a legal situation, will have dropped farther down the draft than they should have and provide greater playmaking potential for the Titans at the position that they actually are able to draft them. I would love to see Jalen Carter drafted at number 11 by the Titans and then have them fill out that offensive line in the second round.
Trev, I don't know if you know Jalen Carter at all, but I know how much you talk to these coaches, especially the ones that are good that ESPN wants you to talk to. Is there any sense, that Jalen Carter's a bad kid? Because, a lot of kids do a lot of stupid stuff like drag racing at 2 o'clock in the morning. And there's a difference between that was reckless and stupid and could get somebody killed and did get somebody killed and perpetual bad guy. And I just don't know if Jalen Carter has that kind of reputation.
I don't know enough to know if he's a perpetual bad guy, although I would tend to think that if he was, that he would have run into more trouble with Kirby Smart, Georgia's coach. Even though he's such a dominant player, coaches like Kirby Smart generally don't allow players like that to push him around. And so I don't know, but I do know Kirby Smart, and I trust him more than that. I will say that his role in drag racing, whether anybody got hurt or not, is incredibly egregiously awful, because the potential is there for somebody that he's either racing with or somebody that's just driving home from Waffle House, for goodness sake, at 2 a.m, could get injured severely or killed. And I think that is incredibly egregious. The question that you asked, though, Jared, was the right question. Is this a one-off because it was right after their victory parade? They just won the second consecutive national championship, and was he just not thinking because he was celebratory and he made a bad mistake? Or is he a guy that has bad judgment that puts other people in jeopardy because he just doesn't care? And that's something that teams will have to decide before they can draft him that high.
Trevor Matich is with us. There was a report by Mike Silver that the Titans were shopping Derrick Henry. There's also a report from Jonathan Jones of CBS that the Titans are not shopping Derrick Henry. We think the Titans were shopping Derrick Henry at the Combine. Trevor, your reaction to the idea that the Titans could be looking to garner offers for Derrick Henry?
If they are not shopping Derrick Henry, or at least listening to offers, then they're committing malpractice. They need to know what he would be, what value he could bring, and especially since they got rid of Taylor Lewan, Robert Woods, Zach Cunningham, some other team players that are either past or expected future big contributors. It looks like they're really restocking this thing. And considering that their receiver group, their offensive line group especially, and then quarterback before too long is going to be really young, I wouldn't mind it if they shopped him and traded him, if they could get a high enough pick or enough compensation of players that can then contribute to and develop with some of those other young players that'll be populating this team over the next couple of years. I'm not saying they should do that, because Derrick Henry is not a horrible cat number, and he's incredibly valuable. But the whole cold hard calculation is 5 years from now, when you've got a whole bunch of other young guys that are going to be the key contributors, what will Derrick Henry be doing for this team? And between now and then, is Derrick Henry going to be enough to get them to the promised land? And that's part of the calculation of deciding whether potential compensation for a trade is worth it.
Trevor, what do we know about this Matthew Bergeron, the tackle from Syracuse? He weighed in at 318, 6'5", and they gave him at NFL.com as the 10th ranked tackle. What do we think of him? And maybe as a trade down candidate for the Titans if they don't want to stay up there and take a Paris Johnson at the top of the first round.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that provides depth to this. He actually did a really, really good job in college. He was able to be productive. He didn't make a lot of mistakes. He's not flashy. He doesn't have huge numbers, but he's the kind of guy that is a scout's dream, because some scouts will will evaluate him much differently than other scouts. And I think that he would be one of those guys that could add depth. Now, can he come in and start right away? I don't think so. But he could come in and compete and add depth, and maybe in a couple of years be one of those guys that could push a starter and maybe even become a starter.
Trev, great stuff, as always. Appreciate your time. Great insight. And I'm telling you, Anthony Richardson to the Colts. I have the system. I have the plan. I actually talked to a former NFL head coach, and I told him about my plan for Anthony Richardson, and he said, bingo. So make of that what you will. Trev, great stuff. Appreciate you as always.
Thanks, Jared.
Yep. Trevor Maddich joining us on the program. So we had Ben Eagles earlier in studio, the senior advisor to the mayor about the stadium. We had him in studio earlier today. And we're going to have kind of the lead opposition to the stadium deal. Council member Bob Mendez is going to join us in the 5 o'clock hour. Now, the number one thing that the Titans need on this stadium deal is they need public support. I think they've got it. But the one thing that could really throw a wrench into this, and it has nothing to do with the mayor and everything to do with them, and we'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Every day we are live and local.
Are you going to pay $20.2 million for someone who's struggling this much to stay healthy?
And your source for Nashville sports.
The players got to play better, and they're the ones actually out on the court, and they got to execute.
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Time for the Preds Report.
The Nashville Predators fell in a shootout last night, 4-3 to the Canucks for their first loss of the road trip. They only got there because of the rookie, Luke Evangelista. Good positioning. He didn't see it at all. Here come the Preds. Right side, Sherwood with room. Safe Seelovs. Rebound score! First NHL goal for Luke Evangelista. Preds cut the lead to 3-2. 11:29 left in the third. Evangelista's first two NHL goals in his fourth NHL game tied the game at 3-3. Both came in the third. Preds fall in the shootout. Next up on the roadie, Thursday night at 8 in Arizona.
All the best car deals in Smashville start at Newton Nissan. Visit them at Newton Nissan of Gallatin or Newton Nissan South in Shelbyville.
This is Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game.
Now's the time to get a great deal on select Kubota compact tractors. Rated #1 in durability and owner experience. They're designed for easy operation and feature performance-matched attachments. Right now, put 0 down and get 0% APR for up to 72 months, plus save up to $800 on select equipment. Now through June 30th. See us or go to KubotaUSA.com for full disclaimer.
Visit Coleman Tractor Company, your local Kubota dealer in Clarksville, Nashville, Paris, and White House today.
Your Game Center update.
The NFL offseason news continues once again today. The Baltimore Ravens have placed the non-exclusive franchise tag on quarterback Lamar Jackson. The non-exclusive tag gives Jackson the ability to negotiate a longer-term contract with any team, and the Ravens would have a chance to match it or let Jackson walk and get compensated with 2 first-round picks. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport on what this could mean for Jackson's market.
This is essentially putting it out there to other teams. If you want him for the right price, then certainly you can have him. And I would say the fact that someone else could sign Lamar Jackson to an offer sheet.
The Nashville Predators failed to gain any ground in the playoff race last night. After a Winnipeg loss in overtime earlier in the evening, the Preds lost in a shootout 4-3 to Vancouver. Rookie Luke Evangelista tallied his first 2 NHL goals to force overtime. The team remains 6 points out of the final wildcard spot. The Preds are back in action Thursday in Arizona. I'm Ian Safar for 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game or visit theGameNashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 102.5 and 106.3.
1, 2, 3. I think it was a good game. Had a couple of big plays.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
where you have a voice.
He had a competent coaching staff. You just play terrible and you keep playing.
And we have strong opinions.
What a whiny freaking crybaby response.
This is Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman, presented by TriStar Moving on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman & Company is delivered by TriStar Moving, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Thanks to Superbook Sports, live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. So, today is the first of 3 readings on the official deal between the Titans and the city about the new stadium. Now, I think a lot of us thought in October when the mayor and the team had a press conference, we felt like the deal was kind of done, but really that just meant that they had agreed, and now the council member gets involved. You know, it's just checks and balances, babe. That's all it is. And so we know the mayor's office is for the deal. We know the team is for the deal, but it's got to go through the council. And Metro Council member Bob Mendez, who has been kind of the lead opposition of the stadium deal, he will join us in 30 minutes. But I'm a football guy. I'm a sports guy. And quite frankly, my expertise is in hosting a radio show. I mean, I think I know a lot about football, and I think I know a lot about these sports, and I think I know a lot about, franchise tags or draft trades or things like that. But deep down inside, I am a radio guy. My expertise is in how to run a radio show. And I am not an expert in finance and city politics and everything else. But the one thing I do know, and when Ben Eagles was in studio with us earlier today, the senior advisor to the mayor, he was talking about how, talk to your council member. We want feedback. We want to know how the people feel about this. And the thing I've learned about politics over the years is very rarely does somebody do something that the general public absolutely hates, knowing that they will absolutely be porked as a politician if they do it. Now, every now and then, if they've got some business interest and they're kind of sketchy like that, we'll see things like that, but not very often. And the reason I say this is because I think the one thing that could stand in the way between the Titans and the new stadium is if there is an overwhelming lack of public support for the team and lack of public support about being the city that gives the team the most local subsidies in the history of the United States. Well, let me tell you something. Trade Derrick Henry, and let's see what happens. And I know that the Derrick Henry thing, it's a football decision, right? Like, let's say the Titans feel like Derrick Henry's best years are behind him. He's got one good year left, and some team calls up and offers a high second-round pick, and the Titans think, we'll draft Bijan Robinson at number 11, and we'll get a left tackle, and that's what we want to do, and let's do it going forward. And that is a football decision, and that should have nothing to do with the stadium. They still have to weigh it out. I've been told that the Titans are not planning, at least the vibe that they gave off at the Combine was that they were not planning to be big spenders in free agency this year. Now, they've already slashed a bunch of salaries, all of which I agreed with. Taylor Lewan never played. Bud Dupree was always hurt. Robert Woods couldn't catch. I'm fine with all of those. But they're sitting at $136 million in commitments for next year after they release Bud Dupree, and it's like, are you going to spend the money on this team? And then we hear the report that they're shopping Derrick Henry. Then we hear the report that they're not shopping Derrick Henry. We think, and I'm speaking for Ian here, but we think they're actually shopping Derrick Henry. And so, again, not to say that the Titans should not trade Derrick Henry because it would cost them the stadium, because that's too extreme. But I think we have to think about this. As I said yesterday, and I believe, if you trade Derrick Henry, you are waving the white flag on the 2023 NFL season. You know it, and I know it. So if they trade Derrick Henry, there are going to be a lot of upset fans. And ultimately, when you're asking for the most money in the history of stadiums inside of the United States, you're asking for the most public money. The fans' opinion counts. And if all of a sudden, if in this process, and I believe April 10th might be the final vote, or I don't want to be wrong about that, but I think that, there's going to be 3 votes on this. If the Titans turn around and trade Derrick Henry and free agency comes and goes and they don't do anything to improve this team, and it's obvious, as I heard TD and Caroline talking about earlier today on my drive into the studio, the idea that, hey, Titans are saving money this year for their stadium, there's going to be a lot of pissed off fans that say, we don't want to go into business with you on this. We don't want to give you everything you're asking for when you are sticking your middle finger in our faces for this season by trading away Derrick Henry. Regardless of whether or not it's fair, regardless of whether or not it's apples to oranges, which it is, there are going to be a lot of people that feel that way. And for everybody that thinks that this is a crazy idea, the idea that the fans could get pissed off at the team and not want to pay the money for a stadium for them, go research why the Titans are here now. There's a documentary called Houston 93. It's an NFL Films documentary on a football life. And it's the 93 season for the Houston Oilers. And they were considered favorites in the NFL. They had Warren Moon. They had Mike Munchak. They had Bruce Matthews. They had great players across the board. They had brought in Buddy Ryan to be defensive coordinator. They thought they were going to compete. They had been beaten by the Bills in the Frank Reich comeback the year before, and this was their year. The salary cap was coming the next year. Bud Adams wanted a new stadium. They got into the playoffs in spite of what was an incredibly ridiculous up and down roller coaster season. Kind of like the Titan season last year, but way worse. And then they got into the playoffs, and they lost at home at the Astrodome to the Kansas City Chiefs with Joe Montana. And with the salary cap coming, Bud Adams demanded that new general manager Floyd Reese tear the team apart. And so he did. Warren Moon got traded. Mike Munchak retired. New coaches. Buddy Ryan and Kevin Gilbride got in a fight. Buddy Ryan became the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. The entire team got torn apart. The next year they were terrible. Cody Carlson at quarterback. And I bring all this up because John McClain said, and he would know, John McClain said in that documentary, if the Oilers had won that playoff game against Kansas City, he thinks they would have voted to build Bud Adams a new stadium. The fact that they didn't want to build Bud Adams a $300 million stadium or whatever it was that he was looking for, only to have the Texans end up getting a stadium that cost $1 billion, in hindsight seems a little ridiculous. But that was the anger that the city of Houston had towards Bud Adams after tearing that team apart after 1993. And it cost Bud Adams a stadium in Houston. So I am not threatening the Titans because I don't have the power to do this. And I'm not saying if they trade Derrick Henry and that trade ends up as bad or worse than the A.J. Brown trade, that the Titans won't get their stadium. I'm just saying you got to keep that in mind. I read your text yesterday. I took your calls. There's a handful of people out there that are saying, hey, maybe it's time to move on from Derrick. And there's some of you guys that are crazy that think you can turn around and trade Derrick Henry to the Chicago Bears for the number 1 pick. Can't do that. But at the same time, there were a ton of you that were just freaking bummed out about the idea of the Titans trading Derrick Henry. Couple that with Jeffrey Simmons is mad that he's not getting a new deal. So you don't pay A.J. Brown. You trade Derrick Henry. You're at odds with Jeffrey Simmons. You don't spend a lot of money in free agency. And you want $1.2 billion from us? And I think there's going to be a lot of people that maybe feel that way. So if I were the Titans, I'd keep that in mind. I'd say, hey, let's keep the money flowing until we get this stadium deal done. And let's keep the money flowing until we roll out these PSLs for this new stadium. And then let's keep the money flowing too, because we want to have a good team when we move into that stadium. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. What's funny about money in the NFL was somebody was talking to me the other day, and they said, the teams that spend all this money, like the Rams and all these other teams, they spend a bunch of money, but eventually they have to rebuild. I said the money is not why the Rams have to rebuild. The reason the Rams have to rebuild is because they've traded all their draft picks. So when you don't have any young players, the players that you traded those draft picks for are old, and then they're not good anymore. And so then you need to go get young players. But you don't have any young players because you traded away all your draft picks. Draft picks are what keep your windows open, not money. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get into your phones, plus what Ben Eagles had to say earlier today on the program about the stadium from the mayor's perspective. Again, he's the senior advisor to the mayor. He negotiated this deal with the Titans. We'll get into that. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Manich joins Stillman and Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Attention all fire and safety line experts. Middle Tennessee's fastest growing fire protection company is looking for experienced service technicians, designers, and sprinkler system experts like you. Tired of working for a large corporate employer? Work for a company where you're more than just a number. Jarrett Fire Protection is owned and operated by Nashville natives and wants to invite you to grow with their amazing team.
Hi, I'm Jason Jarrett, owner of Jarrett Companies. I'm looking to hire experienced sprinkler experts and will offer a sign-on bonus of up to $5,000 for certified professionals. In addition to our great benefits that include a 401k match, PTO, and top pay with annual bonuses, we will also provide you with the top-of-the-line tools, trucks, and equipment that you need to grow your career. Our customer base is large and business is booming with many opportunities for advancement. Give us a call or go online to jarrettfire.com and apply today to become a member of our family and protect our community. That's JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, where we are above and beyond industry standards.
Your chance to get that rare, hard-to-find luxury pre-owned Rolex timepiece is here at Genesis Diamonds. This Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, Genesis is hosting an epic pre-owned luxury Rolex event featuring a stunning new selection of these hard-to-find watches. Hulks, Submariners, Daytonas, Pepsis, Batmans, all the hottest models that people wait years for. These are carefully chosen timepieces in pristine condition. It's time to treat yourself for something great. And listen to this. With the purchase of any luxury pre-owned Rolex at this event, Genesis will give you a beautiful pair of 2-carat lab-grown diamond stud earrings of the highest quality free. That's a $6,000 value. Also for this event, our pre-owned Rolex buyers are on site offering top dollar for your Rolex. Come see the largest selection of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches in the state and take advantage of our special financing and get a 2-carat lab-grown pair of diamond stud earrings of the highest quality valued at $6,000 absolutely free. This Thursday, Friday, and Saturday only, and only at Genesis Diamonds, your home for luxury pre-owned Rolexes. Green Hills and Cool Springs. While supplies last, see store for details.
Get a great deal on one of the most versatile tractors in the industry, the Kubota BX, which is part of Kubota's tractor lineup rated #1 in durability and owner experience. Stop by Krebs Kubota today and bring home select BX series equipment for 0 down, 0% APR for up to 72 months, plus save up to $800. Now through June 30th, see Krebs Kubota or go to KubotaUSA.com for more details. Krebs Kubota, Middle Tennessee's preferred equipment dealer. Columbia, Franklin, and Murfreesboro. Online at KrebsKubota.com.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Strong opinions and a strong personality on your drive home. This is Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Would you be skeptical, though, if you were on the council and you didn't have a term sheet right now?
Well, if I was on the council, I would look into all the details, and then I would be for it. You know, because it frees us up of a $1 billion liability that exists right now. So this is a home run deal for the city financially, but you have to understand the whole deal in order to understand it. Now, for me personally, the fact that we're getting land back, in these other deals, we put land out.
Which you didn't like about the soccer
I
deal.
did not.
Yeah.
I did not like that. That any public land going to support a sports deal, I didn't like. So I tell people about this deal. If you are critical of sports deals, if you are critical of where the city has been in sports deals, this is the deal for you. because it redresses all the things that were kind of a concern in these other sports deals, and it fixes them. It frees the general taxpayer back to being just working for the city and not working for a team. Now, a generation ago, this made a lot of sense, and cities would have traded places with us in order to get the Titans here in the first place.
There you go. That was Mayor Cooper on our show in October. He sent his senior advisor, Ben Eagles, in studio with us earlier today. I shouldn't say he sent him. I mean, they came on. Ben Eagles came on earlier today. He helped negotiate the deal. He's actually, I believe, in front of the Metro Council, or there's some kind of Metro Council meeting or whatever that stuff's so above my pay grade, I don't know, but we're trying to figure out what's best for the city of Nashville at the same time. And so we talked about the opposition of the stadium deal, and this will be debated, I would guess, over the next couple of weeks or months as we move towards a resolution to get shovels into the ground. So Ben Eagles joined us earlier today, and we asked about the East Bank infrastructure and the fact that, we're told about this new stadium and everything else. Here's what he said.
To do that right and not in a haphazard way means you want to put in the right infrastructure. And so the East Bank plan, the process that occurred through a planning process called Imagine East Bank, is really the largest planning process that has occurred in Nashville in many years. What that included is affordable housing, a park alongside the river that would lead up to a stadium that's essentially the size of, on the scale of a Centennial Park, includes a transit hub and a north-south transit spine there. So all of the infrastructure that is not going to be part of the stadium project, we believe that the infrastructure on the East Bank will largely be paid for by developers that will be developing the land, including the 60 acres that the city is getting back in this deal.
Okay, so I'm a little skeptical. One, all of that, according to Bob Mendez blog post, is in a floodplain. So that is a little concerning. And two, whenever these projects start, aren't we promised this is going to be, we're going to make all kinds of money. We're going to have all kinds of affordable housing. We're going to have weren't we promised when they built the soccer stadium that all these things were going to happen? And so far, it's just a stadium with nowhere to park. I feel like that's where we are, right?
I haven't been there, so I don't exactly know the layout and what's around, to be fair.
That is a fair point.
Yeah.
And then the question about the East Bank, Bob Mendez writes, are we getting a neighborhood or just more downtown for tourists? My gut, I think we're probably getting more downtown for tourists. Now, I think Nissan Stadium is a total crap hole. And so when I was told that the cost of renovating the stadium went up from $600 million, which seemed feasible, to $1.2 billion, I didn't completely blink because I think the stadium's a crap hole. But the only thing that we're told is that renovating the stadium would cost $1.8 billion, and we were given a one-sheet piece of paper, and we were told by some study that was commissioned by the mayor's office that, see, this would cost so much money, and to say that I'm skeptical about that would probably be fair. Here's what Ben Eagles said.
I would say that the $600 million figure is very dated at this point and never came from real engineering, looking at the facility, looking at what would be needed to upgrade it, to update it, and to maintain it over a long period of time. And so when we finally got experts to go in there and look, including Venue Solutions Group, who was commissioned by the council and the mayor's office to do an independent review of what the Titans renovation plan would cost, they came back and said it cost $1.88. And so you break down what that would cost. It's $1.88 billion. What that would cost, that would include some $350 million of just the infrastructure enabling projects to begin the work. And so one of the things I think that's important to remember with Nissan Stadium, you referred to it as a crap hole.
It's a crap hole.
Your word, not mine. I've always had a great time there. Although I will say it's evident when you go to other stadiums around the country, we're not keeping pace with our current stadium. And so that's where that first-class definition comes from. That term comes from the original lease signed in the 90s that refers to comparable stadiums around the country. You look at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, they've had to do $1.3 billion of work to keep that stadium in good condition. We have $350 million dollars of work that's needed just to enable the project to move forward.
And so right there, he's saying, hey, it's going to cost $300 million to even start renovating before the money on the renovations. And the reason I believe that is because, like I said, Nissan Stadium is a crap hole. Now, it's our crap hole, but it's a crap hole. The one thing that I believed at first that I absolutely don't believe is this idea of it relieves the taxpayer of the burden of the stadium. I just think it's funneling tax money from one area to another. Now, again, it's not general obligation, so if you don't use the stadium, you will not get a bill as part of your taxes to say, hey, we need you to pay up for the stadium. So I guess technically that is true. But again, I'm a little skeptical of that. And so I asked about, hey, people in Bellevue that don't care about the stadium, Antioch who don't care about the stadium, all these other little places in town that are now parts of town that I had never heard of before, and I've lived here for 30 years. What about them? Here's what Ben Eagles said.
There's no free lunch, and there's no denying that this deal includes a lot of public funding. The distinction that I would draw is between public funding and the bill that's going to be paid for by the resident you're mentioning in Bellevue or Antioch, Donaldson. So this deal includes $500 million from the state. Now, Councilman Mendez, when he comes on, he's going to make the point that he's made before, which is not wrong. Nashville is a part of the state, and so there's some portion of that funding from the state that's derived from us who live here, right? It's a fair point, but my response would be the state is not in a position remotely close to where they are willing to send $500 million to the city for our schools, for our roads, for our police department. Were they prepared to do that? Mayor Cooper would jump at that deal in a heartbeat, and I guarantee you he would prioritize that contribution from the state for those sources rather than for a stadium. There's no doubt.
So basically saying, hey, at the end of the day, it's going to cost taxpayer money one way or another, which I think is fundamentally the issue here, right? And they try to kind of dress it up and say that it's not taxpayer money, but it kind of is. And it kind of feels to me like it's taxpayer money that the Titans just get to do what they want with it. You know, that renovating the stadium, well, we made, with all the people that came through the stadium, we made $800 million in taxes. So let's go ahead and just spend the $800 million fixing the stadium. And then it's like saying, oh, we fixed the stadium. And I don't totally agree with that. So I, on one hand, agree with the idea that the stadium's a crap hole and they got to do something about it. I'm skeptical of the idea that, oh, this is going to totally revolutionize downtown and everything. I mean, we'll get the Super Bowl. That'd be great. But I understand the concern. Metro Council member Bob Mendez joins us next, and we will get into his opposition of the stadium project. And like we said, I'm keeping an open mind. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106 The Game.
Want a chance to win tickets to an upcoming Preds game?
Yes.
Tune in to Robbie and Rexroad every weekday Preds game day at 8:45 for Preds Pick to Click. Guess a goal scorer and win.
I will take Roman Yossi.
Matt Duchene. Pick to Click is brought to you by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Visit tjandersonhomes.com to see why they are referred so often. And by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Download their app today.
Preds Pick to Click.
We are 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
If you've experienced a concussion, the injury can result in temporary chemical changes inside the brain that can cause it to function improperly. The signs and symptoms may occur immediately or take several days to appear. The experienced doctors at Houston Clinic Orthopedics can diagnose your concussion and get you feeling back to normal with therapy and rehabilitative exercises. If you experience head injury signs such as headache, dizziness, nausea, sensitivity, ringing in ears, or problems with memory, balance, vision, or concentration, visit tn.houston.com to learn more and to book an appointment. Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters.
In football, we all take our hits, but protection, that keeps you in the game. That's why I always wear a helmet and pads on the field. Life too comes with risks, so I got vaccinated and boosted for COVID-19. Hi, this is former Tennessee Titans tackle Brad Hopkins. Talk to your doctor. Get the information you need to make an informed choice. Gear up, Tennessee. Protect yourself and your family against COVID-19.
For more information, go to nflagearup.org/Tennessee.
Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well, ZipRecruiter has mastered finding a needle in a haystack, so they take it to the next level. They make hiring so simple that it's like finding a needle in a needle stack. And that's why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
When Smashville wants to rock. We are Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz.
This week's Nashville's Best Deal is Seafood Sensation. Often imitated but never duplicated, Seafood Sensation is Nashville's original seafood restaurant. Right now, you can get half off a $25 gift card to their new location in Antioch at thegamenashville.com/deals and enjoy some of your favorite seafood dishes like their crab legs platter, grilled salmon, and more. That's Seafood Sensation, new location in Antioch at 2209 Murfreesboro Pike. Get half off a $25 gift card while they last at thegamenashville.com/deals.
102.5 and 106.3 The Game is live and local.
And now, let's meet the starting lineups.
Robbie and Rex Road 6 to 9.
You are talking about a team that's building a roster.
Jason Michelle 9 to 11.
He's still under contract.
It's not always X's and O's.
Caroline, Willie, and D Mace 11 to 2.
Trades, free agents.
Let's get it going. I think this is a good hire.
And Stillman and Company 2 to 6.
I can give you one of the best coaches in the league.
And don't forget, we're your home for all things Nashville.
He scored!
Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Hey, this is Jordan Rogers, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 The Game.
Today's a big day for the Metro Council as they begin the process in essentially locking down the official new stadium. I forget what they call it. It had some official name. Deferral or whatever it was they were talking about. I don't know. Again, a lot of this stuff is over our heads. And so what I say we do is we talk to the people on each side of it, and then we figure out for ourselves what's best for the city. And with that, Council Member at Large Bob Mendez joins us now. He is the chair of the East Bank Committee. Thank you for joining us, Council Member. So I want to go right into your blog post that you wrote, a 10-page blog post laying out your concerns about the stadium. And at the end, you say, I cannot support the current new stadium proposal. I hope the mayor's office and the Titans go back to the drawing board and find a better path. Let's start right there. As this process begins, where do you think we really are kind of from conception of there's a deal to actually the council approving the deal for the stadium?
Thanks for having me on, Jared. You know, the mayor's office and the team have worked out 250 pages worth of big old legal documents that now they're putting before the council, and we have to approve it 3 different times. So it'll be May before we're asked to give final approval. And this is really the last opportunity to decide whether it's a good deal for the city or not.
What do you think? And you raise a lot of concerns, and I agree with them, but what is the plan if we don't end up renovating Nissan Stadium, or even we do renovate Nissan Stadium and take care of it throughout the rest of the lease, which would be a ton of money. We don't know exactly how much that would be. They say it would be $1.88 billion, which I know is somewhat contested. But what is kind of the alternative plan here? If you had an alternative plan, what would it be?
Well, there's no way it's $1.8 billion, no matter how many times they tell that lie. They don't even stick to that story anymore. Since November, they just call it a tremendous amount or a lot. It's not $1.8 billion. And the alternative is there hasn't been an NFL renovation that's been over $1 billion. They've typically been $400, $500, $600, $700 million. And lots of stadiums get renovated, and this lease has got another 16, 17 years on it, and that's an alternative. The other alternative is, I think your listeners know that the Titans ownership is one of the least wealthy by NFL standards ownership teams in the league, and they could always get a partner to help them build a new stadium. You know, SoFi, fabulous SoFi out in L.A., $5 billion, zero public money, all private money.
Yeah, but you know the Titans aren't going to do that. You know Nashville is not as desired by the NFL as Los Angeles is.
I mean, Vegas, I think the public spend in Vegas for a new Allegiant Field, what was that, 40% of the overall cost was public money. We're talking about having 60%, biggest public spend ever in the history of sports in America for this stadium, blowing away the previous highest public spend ever. You know, the new stadium for the Bills in Buffalo, New York and Buffalo are spending a total of $850 million on a new stadium there, and we'd blow that away by having Tennessee and Nashville pay $1.2 billion. And that's, you know, if the taxpayers of Tennessee and Nashville want to set that kind of record, that would surprise me a little bit.
So I don't want to set that record either, and it is what it is. Now, they brought up when Ben Eagles was here the idea that as far as actual, you know, pure dollars, you're right, but from a percentage standpoint over time, that's not actually true, and that other municipalities have spent, you know, more of a percentage of public money on a new stadium than Nashville is spending for this, or the state of Tennessee as well when you add that in there. What would your response to that be, that it's just more of a cost because costs have gone up?
Yeah, well, you know, I do transactions for a living. Ben Eagles is a career political hack who's only worked for political campaigns. I would challenge Mr. Eagles to come up with documentation for that. The bottom line is this deal commits $3 billion of public tax money over 30 years to build a $2 billion stadium up front and have a giant slush fund of another $1 billion of tax money for future improvements. And there's no getting, they can say whatever they want. There's no getting around. This is the biggest public spend on a stadium in the history of American sports.
You know what's crazy is I remember Mayor Cooper, when he was council member at large, coming in this studio and vehemently arguing against the soccer stadium and the idea of giving up public land to John Ingram in order to build the stadium, and the fact that, you know, that there wasn't a vote on the stadium, and the fact that we didn't look at other areas for that. And then when you talk about $3 billion, including what I do agree with you is essentially, instead of general obligation money going to the Titans, it's pretty much just sales tax going to the Titans, and the Titans can do whatever they want with it, which I do agree with. But I am almost shocked that on one side of the discussion, Mayor Cooper was very anti-stadium and very anti-giving away free land, and on this, he seems to be very excited about what you just described as a $3 billion project, $2 billion up front, the slush fund you talked about. Why is that?
Well, I can't get in another man's head. I think there's a joke sometimes in real estate development circles that it's a bad idea when a real estate developer falls in love with his project because he stops making smart cost-benefit decisions and just wants to get the thing done no matter what. And maybe there's some of that going on. It's really hard for me to say. I think everybody would agree that Council Member Cooper would not be in favor of this deal at all. No way, no how.
How does this differ for you? Because I believe that you were in favor of the soccer deal and not in favor of this deal. Where is that for you? Like, what is the defining factor, Council Member Mendez, that makes you say, okay, this is too much for me as opposed to the other deal, which I supported?
Well, several things. First of all, the soccer team engaged in negotiations with the council. I'm the one who proposed a cap on Metro spending that the soccer team would pay for cost overruns. That saved Metro $75 million on the soccer stadium. Soccer team negotiated on that with the council. Also, very, very, very importantly, we knew on the soccer stadium the approximate amount of the infrastructure for the area. And we knew that we were signing up to somewhere between $25 and $50 million worth of roads and bridges and flood mitigation and stuff like that. And here, we don't have the foggiest idea within $100 million of what the infrastructure spend is going to be on the East Bank. That $2.1 billion that they talk about for the stadium is literally the stadium footprint, and it will be hundreds of millions of dollars for parking garages, roads. There's no sewer, electricity, any utility over there right now, and we can't get a number for what that is, but I believe it'll be many hundreds of millions of dollars. And so the difference between the soccer team negotiating real changes when it came to the council and a known number for all the related infrastructure, it's just very different than what the stadium deal is.
Bob Mendez is with us. So to that point about the difference between the East Bank project and just the stadium itself, when we're told, hey, no taxpayer will have to pay their taxes for this stadium, which I think is kind of a red herring because it's still tax money, it's just categorized differently. But when it comes to the actual East Bank project itself, is that going to be a general obligation where me as a taxpayer is going to be footed with, as you said, sewage, electrical, parking garages, all those other infrastructure costs related to the East Bank project outside of the stadium?
Yes, absolutely, general obligation, Bob. The mayor's office would argue that they're going to get a development partner, probably some national company that does very large developments, and they're going to try to get the development partner to pay as much of that development cost as possible. But let's face it, that's all going to come out of our pocket, whether we keep all the ownership of the land and pay all the infrastructure or give away some ownership of the land in order to get a partner to build the infrastructure. One way or the other, it's coming out of Metro's pockets, and whatever we spend will absolutely be general obligation bonds for everything except the stadium itself.
So one concern you raised that I do agree with is I got the one-sheeter from VSG that said, oh, it'll cost $1.8 billion to renovate the stadium. See, it says it right here on this sheet with the letterhead logo, so it must be true. And I agree that when somebody is commissioned to do something, deep down inside, chances are they're going to get the result of whatever it is that they commissioned to be done. So what kind of survey would you like to see done as far as a potential renovation that you could say, okay, I feel comfortable that these are the realistic, that this is a realistic cost, a realistic estimate of what renovating Nissan Stadium would be? Because I do think Nissan Stadium's kind of a crap hole.
Yeah, and what the lease requires, and I mean this gets technical, but here's the deal: for all the stadiums built 10 years before and 10 years after Nissan, so that's 89 to 2009. Out of all those stadiums, the average stadium built in that period, that's the standard we have to live by. So Dallas's stadium, the Cowboys' new stadium, it's not so new anymore, but that stadium was built in 2009. So it's on the list, but it's not the average stadium built during that period. That 20-year period, the average stadiums are the ones in Jacksonville, Cincinnati. It's those kind of stadiums that are, by NFL standards, very average, nothing exciting. They all look the same on TV on Sunday. But that's the standard that the lease obligates us to. And nobody, not the mayor's office, no consultant, nobody has gone and done a comparison of what those stadiums are today compared to Nissan. What does that cost? And listen, man, I get it. If you're looking at changes to your house and you really just got to get the bathroom fixed because it's a mess, you start looking at new carpet and we can put a deck on the back and all this other stuff, and all of a sudden the price explodes. But the bottom line is the lease, the actual lease actually signed by the city and the team, only requires us to meet the average stadium built during that 20-year window.
Mm-hmm. To that point, Councilmember Bob Mendez is with us. To that point, though, the one, and I don't want to say this was like a scare tactic, but maybe it was what it was. The one thing that kept getting told to me early on in this process was the way the lease is written right now is the Titans could literally kick their feet up and say, okay, we need you to fix all of this stuff that's wrong with this stadium, and you have to do it. And the general taxpayer is obliged to do that, without a doubt. To that point, I guess I wonder, how does the city pay for what we currently owe the Titans under the current lease if the council rejects the deal?
Yeah, it's funny. This is where the mayor's office sometimes get caught talking out both sides of their mouth. I'm holding in my hand the spreadsheet they gave us. It showed where all the money comes from to pay for a new stadium, and they broke it down between existing revenue sources and new ones. And the existing revenue sources that we have for Nissan over the next till 2039 would support some $250 million worth of payments. So changing absolutely nothing, just using the current sales tax from the stadium would generate some $250 million between now and the end of the lease. So that's a lot of money toward repairs, and the rest we'd have to pay for general obligation bonds. But the thing everybody's got to remember is if you did that to Nissan, you wouldn't have to build Nuevo downtown across the river to pay for it all. And there's a lot of people in Nashville that don't necessarily want to see a big duplication of downtown on the other side of the river. A lot of people who live in Nashville, other than coming down for a Preds game, don't really come downtown that often and aren't necessarily interested in just having a couple more square miles of party buses and pedal taverns. And so if we could just renovate Nissan using the existing revenue streams and general obligation bonds that don't cost the same as building new downtown, I think that might be a win.
Do you think there's any way that happens, though? I mean, at this point, it feels to me like a lot of people already believe the deal is done, and I'm not sure. I don't know what the public support is one way or another. That's not my job. I guess that would be your job. But is there any way that this deal doesn't go through? Because, I mean, Mayor Cooper told me in October on the air that he thinks he has the votes right now.
Well, he definitely had the votes in October, and when we voted on the term sheet in the council, he only needed 21 votes, and he got 27 out of 40. So they've got 6 votes to spare. I mean, listen, I'm not on a crusade. I get invited to talk places. I'm going to say what's on my mind. I'm confident about how I look at the deal. But the reality is that it did have a lot of support in council. The one wild card, I'll tell you, is the state of Tennessee is messing around with the city of Nashville and its government so badly that, sometime in the next week, the state is probably going to chop council size in half and force us to engage in a redistricting where we got to come up with essentially a new government in the next year or so. And, I think that's going to throw a little bit of where things just aren't going to run as smoothly after the state passes a law next week, chopping the council size in half. Sort of injecting chaos is never making anybody comfortable.
That doesn't sound good, but I'm not Bill O'Reilly. So the one thing I would think, though, council member, is I'm a sports guy, right? And I think probably most of the people that are listening to sports radio right now are sports guys. I'm a sports guy. And I want the Super Bowl in town. I think that would be kind of cool. And I think a new stadium I would like because I don't like the rain and I don't like when it's too hot and I like going to concerts and them not getting rained out or rained on or whatever it may be. To that point, is there going to be something, the way that this deal is construed, that somebody like me who uses the stadium, who goes down there, that is ultimately going to look back on this and say, man, I hate this deal? Is there something in there that is going to make me feel that way?
Well, I'm a sports guy too. I am one of those that prefers to yell at my TV at home than go to the game. But, if they build the stadium, it's going to be a fantastic stadium. I think, if we get a flood like we did in 2010, and the East Bank goes underwater again, I think we might have some second thoughts about what we've done. I think that's definitely a real possibility. And beyond that, it's I think people can probably expect their property taxes to go up, because I think the East Bank is going to be pretty expensive to build all that infrastructure that's going to have to happen over there. And those are the things to come to mind. I'd probably still like to yell at my TV from home.
Well, I don't like my property taxes going up. I'm not sure I like that idea. So we'll keep that one in mind. What is the next step as far as the council, and you're the chair of the East Bank Committee, what is kind of the next step with the council as far as this is concerned? And are there any hang-ups along the way that we could see?
Well, let's see here. So we got handed to us last week 250 pages worth of legal documents. Our council, Metro Council lawyer, is reviewing those documents. I think she's supposed to get us an analysis maybe by the end of next week. It takes a little bit to go through those that kind of dense legal stuff. So that'll be next week. And then you mentioned earlier, we have to approve it 3 separate times, and our meetings are 2 weeks apart. So tonight is the first of 3 readings. The earliest it could get approved is our first meeting in April, which is, I think, April 4th. I think the administration, the mayor's office, would be willing to have a 1 meeting deferral if we need time to think about it. But I don't think they want to push it into May. I think that they're going to push really hard to get us to vote on it by the end of April. So that's what I think the timeline's going to be.
So somebody just texted in, Bob, and I want to read this to you because I think a lot of people, this isn't my opinion, but this is the opinion of somebody who says, does he realize the city will make a ton of money back over decades when big events are held here? What's your reaction to that?
I completely understand why people think that way, and it's completely not true. A lot of people are going to make a lot of money off a new football stadium. The city government is not one of them. The way these things get built is all the taxes get captured in the area to pay for the building. For the convention center we got downtown, the $650 million convention center, property tax gets scooped up from the river straight out to 440 past Vanderbilt. Property tax from that entire area gets scooped up, not property tax, sales tax from that area gets scooped up to help pay for the convention center. And if we redo the East Bank, half the property taxes and all the sales tax from the stadium are getting scooped up and staying at home just to build the neighborhood. Best case scenario, neighborhood pays for itself.
Bob, great stuff. I appreciate your insight. And again, some of this stuff on both sides, it's a little bit over my head, but I do think that that's kind of probably everything in life that I'm not an expert at. But I do appreciate your time, Bob.
No problem. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on.
Yep, Bob Mendez. He is the council member at large, and he is the chair of the East Bank Project. And boy, he's against it. Now, I do have some thoughts. I'm sure you do too. We'll get to those next. 615-737-1025. Stillman and Company.
Every Wednesday at 8:30. Come on. Join Robbie and Rexroad for The Choice is Yours.
2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions.
They'll answer a couple of questions about life and sports. The Choice is Yours is built by Jarrett Companies. You have a choice. So when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jarrett Companies. For more, visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. The choice is yours. Wednesdays at 8:30 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Imagine yourself in a new Toyota, like the adventurous new RAV4. The best-selling SUV in America is the right-size vehicle for you. Now through April 4th, you can get low 3.99 APR financing on a new 23 RAV4. With approved credit through TFS, excludes hybrids, and every new Toyota comes with 2 years no-cost maintenance included. Get complete details at buyatoyota.com. Ready, set, go get your Toyota today. Toyota, let's go places.
The Electronic Express tax refund sale is extended. Get up to 50% off doorbusters and 40% off in every department, including 4K TVs, computers, gaming consoles, Bluetooth speakers, smartwatches, and more. Refresh your kitchen with appliances in stock and ready to deliver. And buy now, pay later with up to 3 years free financing. Shop in-store or online at electronicexpress.com and express delivery on most items. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
When you want all the
Going in and the score. Blast the score. He wrist one, they score.
and don't forget the
Oh, what a stop. Sliding across to make the save. The backhander, nice stop.
when all you want is Smashville. We have you covered. Hear every Predators game right here. We are your home for Smashville. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Your chance to get that rare, hard-to-find, luxury pre-owned Rolex timepiece is here at Genesis Diamonds. This Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, Genesis is hosting an epic pre-owned luxury Rolex event featuring a stunning new selection of these hard-to-find watches. Hulks, Submariners, Daytonas, Pepsis, Batmans, all the hottest models that people wait years for. These are carefully chosen timepieces in pristine condition. It's time to treat yourself for something great. And listen to this. With the purchase of any luxury pre-owned Rolex at this event, Genesis will give you a beautiful pair of 2-carat lab-grown diamond stud earrings of the highest quality free. That's a $6,000 value. Also for this event, our pre-owned Rolex buyers are on site offering top dollar for your Rolex. Come see the largest selection of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches in the state and take advantage of our special financing and get a 2-carat lab-grown pair of diamond stud earrings of the highest quality valued at $6,000 absolutely free. This Thursday, Friday, and Saturday only, and only at Genesis Diamonds, your home for luxury pre-owned Rolexes. Green Hills and Cool Springs. While supplies last, see store for details.
They're insightful.
To me, you got a left guard situation you got to figure out.
Credible.
I trust this guy more than this guy.
But sometimes they just argue.
Why do you like the NFL playoffs? Those teams lose
I don't want college football to be the NFL.
When they get...
Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexroad are Robbie and Rexroad. Weekdays from 6 to 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're listening to Stillman and Company, presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Stillman and Company, we have about 2 minutes as we just wrapped up our chat with Council Member Bob Mendez. Of course, if you missed that, be sure to check out the app or Stillman and Company podcast, wherever you get them. All right, so we heard a lot of stuff today as far as the stadium was concerned. We heard Ben Eagles, who's the senior advisor to the mayor who helped negotiate this deal. We heard Bob Mendez, who's the chair of the East Bank Committee, who's against it. And I will just put it to you like this. And again, I'm some schmo. I am not an expert in any of this kind of stuff. Like, I'm just not. So all I'm telling you is just kind of my gut feeling to it, and it may be completely wrong. Like when I hear people call in and say crazy things like the Bears will trade the number 1 pick for Derrick Henry. So that might be what it is. Here's my gut. We probably didn't get an accurate representation of how much it really, truly would cost to renovate Nissan Stadium. But it still probably would cost a ridiculous amount of money to fix up Nissan Stadium because Nissan Stadium stinks. Now, I can say it because it's my stadium, but it stinks. The second part of it is I don't like the idea of property taxes rising because of the East Bank. That does bother me. And I do agree with Bob that I think the East Bank is not going to be, some otherworldly, country, but I think it's going to be like Broadway 2.0, which again, I'm not completely sold on, but I do want a dome stadium and I do want the Super Bowl and I would be excited about all of that. And I do think the $3 billion in public money. I mean, if we actually have affordable housing and things like that, then okay, cool, sold. That I think kind of matters to me. And the one thing that I guess I need an answer to is this. If this project that the mayor put out, a mayor who has been anti-stadium in the past, if this mayor is saying this is the best deal given the circumstances, I need something a little bit more than they should go back and negotiate. Like, I need a little bit better plan. I need a bit, like the opposition should be, not that plan, here's my plan. That's the only way I feel about it, because the current lease, honestly, from what I've been told, I think we're screwed on the current lease. So, to me, I would be for getting out of that and Like Ben Eagle said earlier today, there is no such thing as a free lunch. But then again, I'm biased. I'm a sports guy. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
All